Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, twakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi, sisi watumishi wako ambao umerithika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Twakuomba ututeremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kuyafikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu, na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amina. Can start. Start.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Where is it? To come, I'll give the communication.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honourable members, starting order 225, subsection 2, paragraph B, requires the Speaker to report to the House any petition other than those presented by a member. Further, Article 119 of the Constitution provides for the right of any person to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including petitioning the House to enact, amend, or repeal any legislation. In this regard, honourable members, I wish to report to the House that my office received a petition from one Mwaura S. Mungai, or P.O. Box 1391 Limuru, calling for amendment of the Sports Act of 2013 in order to streamline coordination of quality physical activities, physical education, fitness, recreation, and sports. The petitioner introduces himself as a fitness therapist and avers that Kenya's rapid socioeconomic growth has led to its high prevalence of non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and bodily injuries occasioned by poor lifestyles and aggravated by drugs and substance abuse. He says that 15% of Kenyans are dangerously inactive and quotes a Ministry of Health report which discloses that non-communicable diseases account for 37% of the overall disease burden and that 35% of all deaths in the country. He further asserts that rising morbidity and mortality rates that are aggravated by exposure to environmental, occupational, and biological risks factors require urgent intervention aimed at reducing the strain of medical expenditure on the economy. Consequently, honorable members, the petitioner identifies physical activity and sports as a key solution to the prevalence of non-communicable diseases and recommends, among others, the following amendments to the Sports Act 2013. 1. Renaming the Sports Act as the Physical Activities and Sports Act. 2. Renaming Sports Kenya as the Kenyan Alliance for Health, Physical Activities and Sports. 3. Inclusion of fitness, leisure, recreation, and dance as part of the mandate of the renamed Sports Kenya. 4. Inclusion of registration of fitness, recreation, and dance professionals, as well as registration of all commercial health clubs, gyms, swimming pools, and therapy centers as part of the mandate of the renamed Sports Kenya. 5. Empowering the renamed Sports Kenya to assess playgrounds in all schools countrywide to ascertain their conformity to specifications of size and other standards. And finally, establishment of national associations specializing in health and safety education, fitness and recreation, participation of girls and women in sports, sports for persons living with disabilities, as well as the establishment of the Kenya National Dance Association. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 227.1, this petition starts committed to the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture, and Tourism, as I have determined that the matters raised herein are within the purview of the powers given to this House in the Constitution. The committee is requested to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and to the petitioners in accordance with Standing Order 227, subsection 2. I thank you. Before I allow any comments on this, here there is an issue of dance. Among other things, let me also get the other two petitions presented. The first one is the member for Mwingi West, Honorable Nguna.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given to me. Mr. Speaker, I rise to present on behalf of Kitui County people petition number 27 of 2021 regarding gazettement of Kitui County as a hardship area. I, the undersigned, on behalf of residents of Kitui County, draw the attention of the House to the following: that Kitui County was not among the designated hardship areas in Kenya, filed a circular dated 7th December 2015, OP-CAB/1/31A, that persistent harsh climatic conditions such as drought and famine resulting in food insecurity, that in addition to existence of inadequate transport and communication network, Kitui County has limited access to basic social services and amenities such as clean and sustainable water services and connection to the national electricity grid, that the county has for long been afflicted by cases of insecurity and invasion of group ranches and grazing sites in Mutha in Kitui South, Edau and Malalani in Kitui East, Kaningo in Mwingi North, leading to displacement and loss of lives and property, and destruction of key community infrastructure and adversely affecting investment. That the aforementioned factors necessitate Kitui County to be classified as hardship area. That due to these challenges, public servants encounter numerous setbacks in the discharge of their duties, thus occasioning high turnover of officers and poor delivery of essential government services. That this has specifically affected the education sector, whereby poor management of the school feeding programs has led to early dropouts in primary schools as many parents cannot afford daily meal provisions to learners. Third, the learners in respect of which the petition is meant not pending before any court of law or unconstitutional or a constitutional or a statutory body. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, your able petitioner prays that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security, 1, recommends to the relevant government authorities a review of the existing hardship areas to reflect the true position of the reality faced by public servants in Kitui County. 2, proposes inclusion of Kitui County as a hardship areas so as to give civil servants incentives to serve in the said areas despite challenges. And number 3, make any other order or directions it seems fit in the circumstances of this petition. And your petitioner will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Let me hear the last petition by the member for Matuga, the Honorable Tandaza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is petition number 28 of 2021 regarding irregular annexation and fencing by Greatcom Limited of private land in Tiwi, Shimba North, Kunduzi B in Matuga constituency. I, the undersigned, on behalf of over 50 registered owners of various parcels of land, totaling to approximately 400 acres in Tiwi, Shimba North, Kunduzi B in Matuga constituency, Kwale County, draw the attention of the House to the following. 1, that from the late 1960s to around 1980s, the government of Kenya embarked on land adjudication and issuance of title deeds to landowners in various parts of the country. 2, that the land in Tiwi, Shimba North, Kunduzi B in Matuga constituency, was also adjudicated and the petitioners were issued with the title deeds as proof that they are the registered owners of the various parcels of land. 3, that over the years since adjudication, the petitioners and their descendants have lived on and exploited their respective registered land economically to sustain their needs. 4, that adjoining the parcels of land owned by the petitioners is approximately 1,000 acres of land, which was registered as Kwale/Tiwi LR number 4752/2 in favor of Maruma Holdings Limited. 5, that early 2021, the petitioners learned that MS Greatcom Limited had purchased the entire LR number Kwale/Tiwi 4752/2 from Maruma Holdings. 6, that the petitioners were shocked when in April 2021, the proprietors of MS Greatcom Limited protection from the police officer encroached, annexed, and fenced off private land registered in their names as part of Greatcoms Limited. 7, that petitioners aver that their parcels of land were adjudicated as private lands and have never been part of LR number Kwale/Tiwi 4752/2 that MS Greatcom Limited purchased from Maruma Holdings. 8, that the action by MS Greatcom Limited amounts to blatant grabbing of private land registered in favor of the over 50 helpless families who have title deeds in lieu of their respective parcels. 9, that Greatcom Limited has denied the petitioners access to their land, investments thereon, and various public amenities within the annexed zone in violation of the right to property. 10, that the residents have sought assistance from various state institutions, including the Kwale County Commissioner, but no satisfactory intervention has come forth. 11, that if Greatcom illegal encroachment of the petitioner's land is not reversed, the petitioners not only risk being rendered squatters in their own land, but also losing their livelihoods. 12, that the matter raised in this petition are not pending before any court of law, constitutional, or legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray for intervention of this House through the Departmental Committee on Lands to 1. Investigate the circumstances under which MS Greatcom Limited illegally fenced off private land belonging to over 50 families. 2. Compel MS Greatcom Limited to immediately vacate the encroached land and so as to enable the petitioners to revert to their settlements and access public utilities that have been fenced off by Greatcom. 3. Cause the concerned national government departments to resurvey the area so that to ascertain the boundary between the petitioner's land and LR number Kwale /Tiwi 4752/2. 4. Restrain MS Greatcom Limited from any other development on the petitioner's land pending resurvey. And 5. Make any other recommendations deemed fit in safeguarding the petitioner's rights. And your petitioner will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, honourable members, now I will allow members to make comments on any of the 3 petitions. Honourable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I want to comment on the petition that you earlier read on the issue of sporting, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, in that petition, dance has been introduced as a sporting event. And you know, I really had become very famous, courtesy of the Jerusalem dance, Honorable Speaker. It was the only and the first time I ever won a competition with a presidential candidate called J.M. Muturi, Honorable Speaker, because, you know, I'm blessed with 4 legs and you only have 2 legs, so it was like a Prado competing with a bicycle. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to sports, Kenyans are very dormant. And you know, health-wise, Dr. Pukasa will explain, and Dr. Nyikal, because my seniors are here, they will tell you that it is really that Kenyans are they don't exercise. And exercise keep the doctors away, Honorable Speaker, like the proverbial apple. Honorable Speaker, but more importantly was a mention of sports for persons with disability. We need as a country to be very vigilant in making sure that also persons with disability are in sports. I remember we are now, next month, we'll be in Tokyo for Paralympic. And nobody will be interested with Paralympic. Yet they win gold, and no medal is disabled. But when Kenya, when the Olympics win golds and medals, we celebrate them. But do we celebrate persons with disability? I remember when we were in Rio 2016, Paralympics won 6 medals out of 9 athletes. The normal Olympics won 14 out of 78 athletes, meaning ours was 70%, theirs was 14%. But the normal Olympics was celebrated more than Paralympic. So, Honorable Speaker, this time around, when we go to Tokyo for Paralympic, when they come back, they are led by Agnes Oluoch and Elijah Aliero. Please be the one to receive them as a presidential candidate. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I do support that petition.
Now, am I not going to do parliamentary work? Member for Mavoko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for that petition, and I want to confirm this House, yes, any petition that enriches the sporting activity in this country, Mr. Speaker, we look at it with a lot of interest, and particularly like the one of Sangok. Sangok, I want to assure you that the Paralympics will be highlighted all over, and I can assure you my committee members will be there to receive the team, and even to send with a team from my committee who will accompany them to show how much we value and are interested in them. Mr. Speaker, we will look at that petition accordingly, and we give it the attention it deserves. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise with a mixed reaction, Honorable Speaker. The petition that you earlier read regarding sports. Honorable Speaker, I do agree with a few of the sentiments that the petitioner has requested. particularly on registration of some of these sporting places, particularly on gyms, Honorable Speaker. Sometimes you find a gym with an incompetent instructor who ends up injuring even the people who are going there. So I think that would go a long way in trying to improve the facility and what is being taught there, and also the health matters. But Honorable Speaker, it is not that easy on matters to do with the quality of grounds, particularly, say, in our learning institutions like primary schools. Honorable Speaker, some of these schools don't even cut grass, even in their field. So sometimes it will go, it's not that possible because, again, all these depend on funding from the Ministry of Education. The other bit also, Honorable Speaker, a change of name hardly will not bring any effect towards an amendment in an act. Just changing a name of an act will not go a long way. But most importantly, Honorable Speaker, I don't know which people is talking about Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans walk, and walking is practice. And almost 80%, 90% of Kenyans, they do practice by going to work and going back home on foot. So, Honorable Speaker, this aspect of the few rich people going to gyms and other places, I think that petition might be misplaced. It's not addressing the actual issue of sports. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Muhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think I picked the tone of Gikaria. I happen to have been a sports person. Honorable Speaker, by 1988, I had a call in the Kenyan junior national team that went to South Korea. And this petition is good, and I agree with a number of things in it, including the Para-Olympics that deal with the people who have that kind of nature. But I think when it comes to the bit of schools, it will be very difficult, and maybe the committee, when you'll be looking at this, you check that the sports in schools are managed by the Kenya Second School Sports Association and the Ministry of Education. So if you go there, you really must go through the ministry, and as you look at the petition, check that you don't delink education from sports, because remember, again, we are trying to make PE to be a compulsory subject. But finally, Honorable Speaker, this is a good petition that should also be looked upon as they consider many other things. What is happening, Honorable Speaker, is that the former sports people, especially the former internationals, we do train with them sometimes in the morning at Nyayo, and they are languishing in poverty. The Amwais, the Lichungus of this world are just in abject poverty. So maybe very good for expansion, and let's even expand to consider these old guards when it comes to a certain fund after they retire. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Endebess.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the first petition, especially on the role of sports in as far as management of diseases that are as a result of our lifestyle. Honorable Speaker, I think when the Committee on Sports will be looking into this, I think they have to consult with the existing bodies like Athletics Kenya, because when I'm doing the field for athletics in Endebess, AK normally comes and ensure that it meets the standards in which it has to be. And also the Football Kenya, they also come and make sure that it meets. So I think they have to consult them so that when you are able to come up with recommendations to this House, it has to be authoritative and not to disregard what is existing. On the petition by Honorable Nguna on issues of hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker, I think this is something that has come into this House on several occasions. I would ask the Committee on Administration that when they are looking into that petition, I think a way has to be, we need to review the initial classification of hardship areas, because in my county of Trans Nzoia, Endebess, when teachers or even civil servants are posted to Endebess, they want to get transferred to go to maybe Kwangsa, Honorable Anyonyi's constituency, or Kiminini, or other places. Yet, we also deserve those services. So such an area like Endebess needs to be classified as a hardship area. And when you look at even the CRA classification for constituencies to benefit from equalization fund, in Trans Nzoia, Endebess is benefiting, meaning this is an area that has challenges in the whole county. So people who are working in Endebess actually needs to be classified as people who are within hardship areas, and they deserve to be paid that, because when you move to other areas, the conditions are better. So I think when the committee is looking, please try to look at various places and look at reviewing of the old classification, because some areas have ended up being disadvantaged, yet they qualify for it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support it.
Member for Ganze.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll comment on two of the petitions, one by Honorable Charles Nguna and one by Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza. Mr. Speaker, I think yesterday we were dealing with a report from the delegated legislation on equalization fund. And when you were in the report, they had given an elaborate information on where and how other areas within the country were marginalized and they required to be considered with the equalization fund. And in the government reports, Mr. Speaker, you will find that Kitui features in almost everywhere that Kitui has been disadvantaged. It's unfortunate that when it came to looking at these issues of areas to be considered for the as hardship areas, Kitui was not factored, and I think this was unfair, and maybe it was a political game to disadvantage the people of Kitui. But I think the committee will get an opportunity to at least come up with a clear way of making sure that Kitui is captured among other areas in the country whereby there are issues. Because even when you go deep to the coast region, whereby there were areas considered to be hardship areas, they were also removed, and yet they're still lagging behind, Mr. Speaker. So I think it's high time the committee should come out with parameters to gauge which areas should be captured in this one. And on the other petition by Tandaza, Mr. Speaker, I'm even wondering, because of recent times there has arisen as the level of appetite, the appetite levels in this country have risen, especially on land from the coast region. We are wondering, because if you go to Kwale County, if you go to Kilifi, if you go to Mombasa, Lamu, Taita Taveta, we are normally getting the same information, Mr. Speaker, that people have encroached, people have grabbed bigger pieces of land. And I think it's high time that even the ministry should be careful. And if in case it is some of the officials in the ministry who are maybe dealing with these grabbers, then we need to look at those things. But I'm also wondering why the county government of Kwale allowed these people to put up those such a perimeter walls in that piece of land, Mr. Speaker. I think the county government should also be keen on the people, on allowing people to put perimeter walls without knowing whether those title deeds they are holding are genuine or the people who are living in those pieces of land, Mr. Speaker. But since I'm a member of the Departmental Committee on Land, Mr. Speaker, I believe Tandaza is well assured that we are going to handle this matter critically, and I believe we'll come up with something tangible. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for North Imenti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the first petition by Mr. Maura. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, what Honorable Sankok said regarding the less ables of society. Mr. Speaker, we had a tournament for the disabled in Meru last week, sitting volleyball. And Mr. Speaker, there are some disciplines in this country which they are sporting activities, but they're not supported by the sports fund. And Mr. Speaker, I want to agree that when the petition comes to the committee, they should even look at funding for those other sporting activities and not just funding the big games which are being played by the rich people, because I think there are many other games which there is even another name called Kabaddi, which is being played in Kenya, and it's a new new game which is there, but there is no funding and there is no recognition for that. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to request even the Committee of Sports, when they are doing this petition, to at least involve a few members of this House so that we can even suggest a few new games which can be incorporated in for funding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kabuchai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to discuss seriously and my input on this sporting petition, Mr. Speaker. I agree with this because, Mr. Speaker, exercise to any animal or any human being, Mr. Speaker, adds life. If you look at very well those who do serious exercise, Mr. Speaker, they keep fit, they live long, and sometimes, Mr. Speaker, you find even the way they perform their brain work takes place very well. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support it, because when you look at the body, when you ingest in food, Mr. Speaker, and this has become a tradition in our country that we are bringing up a lazy nation, Mr. Speaker, nowadays. Because I remember the days in 80s and 90s, people were walking for long distances, Mr. Speaker, to go and do some duties. Nowadays, the introduction of motorbikes in our country, Mr. Speaker, even 1 kilometer, people cannot walk, Mr. Speaker. They jump on a motorbike, Mr. Speaker, even from a shop to a house, very near, Mr. Speaker, even 500 meters, Mr. Speaker. So I would wish that this is introduced seriously. And when you look at it, Mr. Speaker, again, when we are introducing this sporting issue, we look at how to do these things, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes, as we have talked to yourself, dancing, Mr. Speaker, dancing is also a sporting activity, Mr. Speaker. But we must put the time limit of how long you dance. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you dance for a minute or dance for 1 hour, or if you can dance with a partner, it depends with how you dance, Mr. Speaker. It also burns a human body which has a serious adenosine triphosphate, Mr. Speaker. Conversion of adenosine triphosphate into adenosine diphosphate through Krebs cycle, Mr. Speaker. It is through the action of exercise and sweating that you can release that, Mr. Speaker, and keep fit. When you look at people who do exercise here, Mr. Speaker, you can see them by face. Yourself, Mr. Speaker, you look like you do exercise. I see Honorable Kimunya here and Honorable Dani Wanyama. They do very well, and I suspect, Mr. Speaker, when you have do good exercise, you do every work very well. Not forgetting that sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we have some nukutano exercises. Nukutano exercises, Mr. Speaker, which take place, Mr. Speaker, in darkness. It's also exercise, Mr. Speaker. I may not know how they might classify it, but also exercise that keeps the body sweating is good exercise, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and I support the petition.
Member for Igembe Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment.
No, members, the member for Kabuchai merely talked about nocturnal exercises. There is nothing unparliamentary about that. Those are plain English ones. Plain, very plain.
Thank you.
It seems that your agitation seems to suggest that your minds are very far. They are not in the chamber. Or they are not with the English language.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let the member for Igembe Central make his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to comment on the petition you read, Mr. Speaker, and noting that the petition will come to the committee where I sit. I listened carefully, Mr. Speaker, and the petitioner appeared to be trying to change just the act in changing the names, but not introducing anything new. But because the petition has been brought to the committee and it's property of the House, we shall look into it and respond to the same accordingly. Then I would like also to comment on the petition from CNN on this hardship allowances and areas. Mr. Speaker, the hardship problem is a perennial problem in this country, which should be looked into keenly, because it was done in in a corrupt way, if I may use the word, whereby some schools were put in the category of getting hardship and others were not put, depending on the end teachers of those schools and how they were relating to the officers. I would like that thing to be looked holistically so that they can be harmonized and so that all the schools can be getting teachers uniformly, because as we talk now, most teachers crave, and they even to go and bribe their bosses to be transferred to the schools where there's hardship, because the difference in salaries is very big. And therefore, you find some schools are deficient of teachers, others are overstaffed because of that category. And other areas, especially in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, you will find that a school is in the hardship category, and another one less than 2 kilometers away is not in the same category. And those teachers sleep in the same market, or they have hired place houses within the same region. So it becomes quite a problem. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Mvita.
Bwana Spika, nataka kuweza kutoa kongole na kukubaliana na hii ardhi ili hali iliyoweza kutoa kwa ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Tandaza, na kama walivyozungumza wajumbe kadhaa, haya masuala ya ardhi ni masuala tetesi, hususan huku kwetu ambao kwamba ni maeneo ya pwani. Bwana Spika, nataka kutoa tu mfano wa eneo lile ninalotoka mimi la Mvita. Bwana Spika, kihistoria kuna baadhi ya watu walioweza kupatiwa ardhi hizi sio kwa sababu nyingine, lakini waliweza kupatiwa kwa niaba, na hii ilikuwa ni wakati kabla Kenya haijaweza kupata uhuru. Waliweza kupatiwa ardhi hizi kwa niaba ya wakaazi na Mombasa kwa jumla, Bwana Spika. Na Bwana Spika, ardhi hizi zilipatiwa watu ambao kwamba wakati ule walikuwa wakiitwa masultani, na masultani kwa sababu walikuwa wanashika mamlaka ya maeneo yale. Wakati wa aliyekuwa mbunge wa Mvita marehemu Sharif Nasir, Mungu amweke pema palipo na wema, Bwana Spika, aliweza kuhakikisha ya kwa wizara ya ardhi iliweza kwenda katika maeneo yale, na rais mstaafu ambaye pia ameenda mbele ya haki, Daniel Arap Moi, akaweza kutoa amri ya kwa ardhi za mbele za katika eneo ile watu walipe 30,000, za nyuma 15,000 kwa sababu ya ile historia, Bwana Spika. Na nakumbuka, Bwana Spika, ya kwa baadhi ya walilipa, baadhi wakaweza kupatiwa stakabadhi zao. Bwana Spika, huu wakati wangu mimi niliweza kwenda na National Land Commission, ambao kwamba ni commission inayojulikana kikatiba na inakutambulika kikatiba. Waliweza kutoa amri ya kwa zile ardhi, kwa sababu ya historia ya mahali pale, watu waweze kulipa 400,000 na 500,000 ili waweze kupatiwa ardhi zao. Na mpaka hivi sasa hivi, Bwana Spika, kuna wengine wanaona ya kwa watu wazima wanaweza kutishiwa nyao, yani wanataka bado kutishia watu ya kwa wataweza kuwabumburusha katika ardhi zile, wakisahau ya kwa tuko na nchi ambayo yenye sheria. Kwa hivyo, Bwana Spika, mimi nakubaliana na ardhi hali hili, na mimi naomba tu National Land Commission wakishaweza kutoa amri yaweze kufuatiliwa haya mambo, ya kuwa tusiwe ni wenye kukaa na watu wetu wanateseka, hususan wale ambao kwamba wameweza kutumia viongozi wao na mambo yakaweza kutekelezwa. Kwa hivyo nakubaliana na nimewasiliana na mwenyekiti husika wa ardhi, Bwana Spika, pia haya ya Mvita nitaweza kuyapeleka kwake yaweze kufuatiliwa. Asante sana.
Finally, the member for Kitui South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to make a comment about the petitions. I would like to start with the petition by the member, the Honorable CNN, Charles Ngusianguna. Honorable Speaker, this matter of Kitui being left out of the hardship counties is very disturbing. Honorable Speaker, you find that some of the professions are within the hardship, or rather they are receiving hardship allowances, and others are not. For example, you find that teachers in some areas are getting, others are not getting. You find DCCs, police officers are not getting, and others are getting. So I think it's a matter that needs to be looked into seriously. When you look at the aspects that are looked at for a county to be identified as an hardship county, is the lack of social amenities, and clearly they are not there in Kitui County. There is serious inadequate transport and ability to access, for example, the schools. Also, the harsh conditions. You find schools, for example, in the areas that the Honorable Charles Nguna is talking about, Malalane, Modha, Kasala, Kanziko, which are neighboring others in Tana River, and you find that the ones in Tana River are getting, the ones in Kitui are not getting. Also, with regard to insecurity, Honorable Speaker, you find that the conditions that are in Tana River are more or less the ones that are in Kitui. So I would like to request that this matter is looked into. As a member for, the Honorable Mambire, member for Ganze was saying, I hope that this is not political. He happens to be an in-law to the people of Kitui. And I would like to thank him very much for raising this issue. I hope it is not political. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the first petition, I would like to say that it is extremely important to think along the issue that has been raised by the petitioner, but more so to look at health with regard to physical activity and body movement. Because of the sedentary lifestyles that we are leading today, and because of the contemporary diseases that we have today, for example, COVID, that is making people work from home for months. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a matter that needs to be looked into without losing focus on what we have achieved so far from the Ministry of Sports. This morning, Honorable Speaker, we were looking at a situation where within Nairobi County, you find that someone is subdividing 20 acres of land, and everything is subdivided, brought by the Honorable, we call it Major Donk, Honorable Anthony Mwangi. Honorable Speaker, where someone does subdivision and leaves totally no space where people can have social amenities or even public spaces. So I would like to say that it's a very important petition. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very well. The three petitions are referred to the respective committees of the House to deal with them as appropriate. Next order.
Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honourable members, there are several questions, so we'll move fast. First question is by the member for Narok South, Honourable Dr. Korei Oleleme.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise to ask question number 200 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures, if any, instituted by the Ministry to rehabilitate the 2-kilometer stretch of the junction or Mekenyi Road, which connects Ololonga Sub-County headquarters and the main highway, which is in a deplorable state? 2, what plans are there to construct the road to bitumen standards, given that it is the main access road to the Ololonga Sub-County headquarters? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Next, by the member for Trans Nzoia County, Honourable Janet Nangabo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 2 of 5 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary of Health. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, is yet to remit the funds to Inua Linda Mama program since November 2020? 2, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that the funds payable by the NHIF are remitted without further delay to ensure that the program fully benefits the indebted beneficiaries? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Health. Next is by the nominated member, the Honourable Professor Jacqueline Odwor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise to ask question 207 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Considering the rapid expansion of digital technology, which has led to increased cases of online sexual exploitation of minors, 1, what measures has the ministry put in place to protect minors from grooming or coercion by duty bearers, including parents, to online sexual exploitation through solicitation and inducement to pornographic content and sexual abuse, particularly in secluded dwellings and locations that are mushrooming in the country. 2, what specific awareness programs has the ministry developed to enable children, youth, parents, and the general public to access, understand, and apply the existing tools such as the Guide to Child Online Protection? 3, what steps has the ministry taken to work with key stakeholders, especially internet service providers, to ensure that law enforcement agents are informed about the numerous cases of child pornography and online sexual exploitation and related offenses? 4, what measures are in place to protect children from sexual predators who use tourism as a design to exploit children? And finally, 5, Honorable Speaker, what is the ministry doing to hold online gaming companies accountable to online games and pop-ups which lure minors to sexual content and exploitation? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Next question by the member for Kisumu West, Honorable Olagwaluch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 226 of this year to the National Land Commission. Number 1, would the Commission explain the progress made in disbursing money received from Kenya in December 2016, amounting to Kenya shillings 314,160,828, which was meant for the compensation of persons whose fixed assets situated in Kogonyi sub-location of Kisumu West constituency were compulsorily acquired by the government for the construction of the Kisumu Northern Bypass. Number 2, could the Commission provide details and list the names and ID numbers of the beneficiaries who received compensation amounting to about Kenya shillings 87 million as part of the compensation money, and state when the balance amounting to about 227,160,820 will be paid out to the rest of the affected persons. Number 3, what steps is the National Land Commission taking to ensure that it pays the balance to the affected persons, together with the revaluation of the affected properties, with a view to paying compensation at the current valuation of the said properties? And finally, Mr. Speaker, what steps is the Commission taking to secure payment of the balance of Kenya shillings 635,091,027 from the National Treasury, so that the process of compensation to all affected persons from Kogonyi sub-location is completed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next, by the member for Subuki, Honorable Gashobe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I like to ask question 232, 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Gender. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary state why the 50 persons who were recruited from the 26 sub-location in Subukia constituency, sub-county, under the NYS Empowerment Program in the month of May to August 2016 to supervise work in their respective sub-location have not been paid to date? 2, when will the said persons be paid their dues? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That will be replied before the Committee on Administration and National Security. Next is by the member for Kitui West, Honorable Edith Nyenze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to ask question number 236 of 2021. The question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Question number 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the proposed establishment of a technical and vocational education? And
Next question by the member for Kathiani. Honorable Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 238 to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. First, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the circumstances which led the Kenya National Examination Council to issue a circular that was dated 11th and 28th of June 2021, directing both private and public schools with less than 40 candidates, which they have adjusted to 30, to be hosted by an examination center with more than 30 candidates during the 2021 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams. Secondly, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether the ministry did consult education stakeholders such as the Kenya Private School Association, the Parents Associations, and also the parents, considering that swift change of policy directions may inconvenience thousands of learners during the examination period, since subjecting them to a new environment may affect their performance. 3, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that increased numbers of learners in examination rooms would not compromise the quality of education and lead to cheating during these examinations? And finally, what steps is the ministry taking to ensure that increased numbers of learners in classrooms or examination rooms do not compromise the COVID-19 protocols and guidelines as set by the Ministry of Health? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To be replied before the Committee on Education and Research. The last question by the member for Kwale, Honorable Sulaika Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to ask question 240/2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain plans in place by the ministry, if any, to repair Mwachande Bridge in Lungalunga constituency, which was destroyed and washed away following heavy rains in 2014, considering that the bridge connects Lungalunga and Msambweni constituencies? Thank you.
Very well. The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, and Housing. Now, members, we go to the next segment, which is a segment on statements. But this is Honorable Ikaria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just needed your direction. Honorable Speaker, there was a question which was asked by Mheshimiwa Honorable Kwenya Thuku, which I was supposed to have responded to last week. I was told it will come again this week, and today again is Wednesday.
Question?
Yeah, a response that we were supposed to give as a committee.
A chairman is not required to answer a question. That's the work for the Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, I have the answer, but now I've not
Was
been
it a
stated.
statement or?
A statement by, yeah.
We are not yet there. We are not yet there.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So, honour members, honour members, we are going to the second segment, the A part. But before we go there, honour members, I wish to make the following communication because of various concerns that have been raised by several members on the fate of individual members' bills pending before committees of the House. Honour members, you will recall that in September 2020, I did update the House on the status of bills sponsored by individual members that were pending before various committees of the House. At the time, 45 such bills had been published and were at different stages of processing, with 24 bills having been considered by committees and reports thereof tabled in the House. Honourable members, On the same breath, I wish to apprise the House that as of today, 60 individual members' bills are currently before the House at various stages of consideration. For clarity, the said bills are at the following various stages. Number one, 5 bills are awaiting committee of the whole House. Number 2, 4 bills are currently undergoing second reading. Number 3, 50 bills are awaiting second reading. And 4, 1 is awaiting first reading. Honourable members, of interest are the 54 bills that are awaiting second reading. During its regular review of business pending before the House for purposes of prioritizing consideration, the House Business Committee observed that out of the 54 bills awaiting second reading, reports on consideration of bills by the relevant committees pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 127 in respect of 28 bills were yet to be tabled in the House as here below. Number 1, bills before the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information, and Innovation. There are three, being the following: the Kenya Information and Communication Amendment Bill number 2, Bill number 61 of 2019 by the Honorable Malulu Ijedi MP, which was read for the first time on 2nd of October 2019. Number 2, the Information Communication Technology Practitioners Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 20. Honourable members, each committee chairman should note the number of bills that are pending before their committee, because finally I will be making some certain direction on this. Education and research, the bills are as follows. 2, the Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2020, by the Honorable Gideon Ketel MP, having been read a first time on 8th of October 2020, and the Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 37 of 2020 by the Honorable John Paul Mwirigi MP, which was read the first time on 9th June 2021. Third, bills pending before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Number 1, and this, I may just indicate that in total there are 10 as follows. Number 1, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2019 by the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah MP, which was read the first time on 2nd May 2019. Second, the County Government Retirement Scheme Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2019 by the Honorable Chachu MP, having been read the first time on 8th May 2019. Third, the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2019 by the Honorable Wangari Mwaniki MP, which was read the first time on 24th July 2019. 4, the Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2020 by the Honorable Didimas Wekesa Barasa MP, which was read the first time on 10th September 2020. 5th, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2020 by the Honorable Richard Tongi MP, having been read the first time on 22nd December 2020. 6th, the Public Debt Management Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 36 of 2020 by the Honorable Sakwa John Bunyasi MP, which was read the first time on 22nd December 2020. 7th, the Kenya Deposit Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2020 by the Honorable Abdul Rahim Dawood MP, which was read a first time on 9th of June 2021. 8th, the Central Bank of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2020 by the Honorable Gideon Keter MP, having been read the first time on 25th of January 2021. 9th, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2020 by the Honorable Benjamin Gadhiro Mwangi MP, which was read the first time on 9th June 2021. And 10, the Poverty Eradication Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2020, by the Honorable John Waluke Koi, MP, having been read the first time on 11th of June 2021. The fourth committee being the Departmental Committee on Health, has pending before it a total of 6 bills in the following order. 1, the Kenya Food and Drug Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 31 of 2019 by the Honorable Dr. Robert Pokose, MP, which was read the first time on 2nd of May 2019. 2, the Radiographers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2019 by the Honorable Sabina Chege, MP, which was read the first time on 11th of September 2019, and it is noted here that she is also the chairperson of that committee, and therefore delaying her own bill. Third, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2020 by the Honorable Alice Wahome, MP, which was read the first time on 8th of October 2020. Number 4, the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020 by the Honorable Martin Peters Owino, MP, which was read the first time on 22nd of December 2020. 5th, the Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2021 by the Honorable Alfred Kipto Keter, MP, which was read the first time on 9th June 2021. And 6th, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2021 by the Honorable Mwambu Mabonga, MP, having been read the first time on 9th of June 2021. The 5th committee, bills pending before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, in total 5. Honorable Kajuang is not here, the Vice Chair, and the Chair, Honorable Kiano. Number 1 being the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill number 76 of 2019 by the Honorable Vincent Mogaka, MP, which was read the first time on 4th of December 2019. Number 2, the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2020 by the Honorable Radhoni Wamushomba, MP, having been read the first time on 10th of September 2020. Number 3, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 40 of 2020 by the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, MP, which was read the first time on 22nd of December 2020. Number 4, the Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 41 of 2020 by the Honorable Nelson Koech, MP, which was read for the first time on 25th of February 2021. And fifthly, the Public Participation National Assembly Bill number 71 of 2019 by the Honorable Chris Wamalwa, MP, which was read the first time on 30th of October 2019. 6 bills pending before the Labor and Social Welfare Committee, in total being 3, and they are as follows. The Breastfeeding Mothers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 74 of 2019 by the Honorable Sabina W. Chege, MP, having been read the first time on 6th of November 2019. 2, the Children Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2020 by the Honorable George Peter Kaluma, MP, which was read the first time on 22nd of December 2020. The House Business Committee moved the House to resolve to accord priority to individual members' business during the sittings of the House every Thursday afternoon. Further, the House Business Committee has proposed to the House to alter its calendar for the 5th session so as to extend the upcoming recess from 2 to 3 weeks. Honourable members, the intention of the leadership is largely to avail more time to committees to consider bills pending before them and submit reports to the House, having undertaken public participation as required under Article 118 of the Constitution and read together with Article 127, subsection 3. I therefore encourage chairpersons of the concerned committees to endeavor to prioritize the listed bills during this recess period and table their reports in the House as soon as possible. This will enable the House Business Committee to also prioritize the bills for consideration at second reading and subsequent stages of the House in good time. Having said that, honourable members, it is important to take note that some of the individual members' bills awaiting second reading have already been overtaken by events. They include, but may not necessarily be limited to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill 2019 and the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2020, both sponsored by the Honourable Jude Jomo, MP. Further, there may be bills whose sponsors no longer have the interest to pursue for one reason or the other. As it is the responsibility of the sponsor to cause the withdrawal in accordance with Standing Order 140, the relevant committees have a duty to report to the House such developments. Honourable members, from a review of individual members' bills awaiting second reading, the House Business Committee observed that certain bills, such as the one to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act and another to amend the Public Finance Management Act, are similar in nature. As such, the committee will take a decision on which bills to schedule first, the import of which is that the other bill might fall. With regard to individual members' bills seeking to amend the Constitution, I urge the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to take a deliberate decision on the said bills and make appropriate recommendations to the House on how to proceed with those bills, having undertaken the appropriate and necessary public participation in cases where that has not been done. Honourable members, allow me to also speak to the bills referred to the Budget and Appropriations Committee for determination of money bill implications in accordance with Article 114, Clause 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 114, Subsection 3, Paragraph B, before being referred to the relevant departmental committees for consideration. I urge the committee to hasten the processing of such bills and make appropriate recommendations to the House. Further, and so as to keep the House abreast on business before committees, I direct that the Liaison Committee, which is responsible for coordinating the operations of all committees, to provide regular reports of pending business before all committees on Thursdays of every sitting week by way of a statement. The committee is further directed to impress upon committees of the House to prioritize consideration of bills pending before them. In summary, honourable members, I wish to guide as follows. 1, that all committees should prioritize consideration of individual members' bills and any other bills referred to them during the recess and table reports thereof as soon as the House resumes sittings on the 3rd of August 2021. Further, they are directed to prioritize consideration of bills pending before them in their work plans for the financial year 2021-2022 as a matter of principle. Number 2, that in the case of several bills seeking to amend similar laws, the House Business Committee shall determine which of the bills to schedule for second reading and subsequent stages, the import of which may be that the other bills will fall. And finally, that the Liaison Committee is henceforth directed to be...
Mr. Speaker, that in order for committees to undertake meaningful public participation meetings, Mr. Speaker, I would invite you to maybe reconsider your earlier communication on not to have physical meetings.
Sorry, Honourable Kato.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying, in order for committees to do, justice to public participation as required by law, I would request you to reconsider your earlier ruling on not to have physical meetings with the executive or other stakeholders who may wish to come before committees to defend or to clarify their information on public participation. And by doing so, Mr. Speaker, I think now when we go for recess, we will have, venues that can allow committees to have physical meetings while undertaking or observing the COVID-19 health protocols. Because now with the main chamber, the mini chamber in the county hall will be empty, I think if you could allow committees to have physical meetings with either the relevant ministries or other stakeholders to clarify or defend their public participation memoranda, it will make committees be able to write conclusive reports on these pending bills and then table them according to your communication. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That will be done on on case-by-case basis, because you also don't want to call people who are themselves in isolation, and you want to come and mix with them. They could leave a lot of funny stuff. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Give the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to report to you, Mr. Speaker, that this morning we had a meeting as Liaison Committee. Actually, Mr. Speaker, you are being, there is interference by two members of the Liaison Committee, which is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, because I'm actually speaking.
Especially when the chair of the Liaison Committee
yes,
is...
I will know how to deal with them accordingly at a later stage. Now, so, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to report to you that we have also taken what you've just communicated now with a lot of concern. And this morning, myself, together with the majority leader, we had an opportunity to, at length, try to see how we can, work out a way which we can be able to have those reports very quickly come to the House. And we noted, Mr. Speaker, that since we are going on recess, we really need to move, and those specific committees, we have asked them, the chairs of those committees, to make sure that by the time we come back, we should be having committees ready for the House to process them. Now, the only small problem that we had was about the fact, so of course, you know that the systems are not open yet. So, but we would want to make requests, and the chairs made requests, that at least a few of those committees like probably finance, committees like agriculture, maybe those committees that have quite a lot of work, we can be able to see a way of having to have them have a retreat and come back with all those reports ready. Mr. Speaker, some of the committees like that one of finance, I'm sure are bogged down by the fact that there was a very heavy workload in the last few days because of the budget, but they are promised that they are going to very quickly. So, Mr. Speaker, we also did another thing. We created we tasked somebody from that committee, a clerk from this particular committee on liaison, who will be able to liaise with the committee, the House Business Committee, and also some clerks from the table office, so that we can be able to make sure that also those chairs, as they have anything pending before the House, they will be able to come and deal with them. So we will not have a situation whereby you have a matter here and the chair is not there, and also the vice chair is not there, and even not any committee member who has been tasked to deal with that one in particular. But, Mr. Speaker, we continue to thank you for the support that you are giving committees, and we promise that when we come back, especially if we get those a few committees to retreat, we will be able to come with better news. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, and if they have done public participation, then I think it makes a lot of sense to retreat, to do the reports. I think the clerk will be directed to facilitate. You are also a chair of our committee. Honorable Bashir.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I was killing some of the pending bills. But what happens to some of the bills by private members that are still stuck in Senate, that this House has finished, resolved, and transmitted to the Senate, and is of utmost importance to all of us? For example, I had the Livestock and Livestock Marketing Board bill that has been dispensed and transmitted to Senate for almost now 8 months. and still now stuck in Senate. So do we have a communication, or how do you deal with that kind of things? Does the individual member follow up, or this House has a recourse to attend such matters? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Unfortunately, in the design of our bicameral nature, there was never provided a mechanism of dealing with that. But we do take up the matter with the leadership of the other House, just like they also take up issues of bills that are remained pending here, which emanated from the other House. And as you know, obviously, most of the bills emanating from the other House are actually private members, because, as you know, there are not very many government bills that start there for obvious reasons. Because, as you know, the Honorable Bashir, the Senate represents counties and serves to protect the interests of county governments. So the Senate, you know, bills from counties don't come to the Senate. So, and therefore very few government bills go there. So most of their bills actually are private members' bills. And I know all of you are aware, we are really trying to, as much as possible, to accommodate many Senate bills, even including today. If you look at today's order paper, there are bills from the Senate. And so we'll take up the matter of those bills from our private members, which are pending in the Senate. Indeed, even from government, there are several of them, since they which have been pending there for a long time. But you know, they are on recess. They are on recess, and so right now we may not be able to do much. But we will take up the matter. We'll take up the matter. Honorable Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. From your communication, it means I had a statement to request for additional time, but then from what you've communicated, then we, as a committee, it means during the 3 weeks recess, we'll be able to sort out the two bills and come up with a report. It's only that in the report that you read, Honorable Speaker, there is a bill, kick amendment bill by Honorable Njenti. We completed and did the report, submitted report, table report in the House almost 1.5 years ago. And in your last communication also, like a year ago, the same bill appeared, and I clarified that it was completed. So I don't know why it keeps repeating, coming up. And basically, I have 2 bills before the committee, not 3.
Yeah, as recorded in my communication.
Yes.
2 bills. So you don't have to make this request.
Yeah, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's a member there who was raising his hand up. Who is this? Maybe because of the mask, I can't quite tell who it is. Is this Honorable Mule? Yeah, you know, with a mask, you look different.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I was wondering which gracious lady is this one?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your communication. It is well guided to the House, but Mr. Speaker, I have concern whereby as the House and the leadership need to think through and think outside the box, whereby we might not be able to complete all those bills by private members and see how to amend the standing orders so the bills does not elapse with the House. Because some of the bills brought by the members here are very vital to this country, and they can be transmitted to the next parliament and be committed to be proceeded until to conclusion, Mr. Speaker. Why am I saying that, Mr. Speaker?
No, yeah, you can stop there. The House, if you recall, last December, the House even moved a motion, resolved to extend the period. So what you are saying is already covered by our own standing orders. It's you who has not read the standing orders to know that actually you can resolve that way.
I agree.
I want to encourage you to continue reading the standing orders.
I agree with you, Mr. Speaker, but my concern is that the next parliament should have a mechanism to take up those bills. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look for us who were in last parliament...
Honorable Mule,
yes, sir.
We are guided by traditions, not just of this House, but of several other parliaments. You know, you may find it sometimes very, very difficult. And I have personal experience myself. on bills and reports which were championed by members who served in the 8th Parliament. Those members lost their elections in 2002. So when the bills were called out here, nobody, even reports, nobody could move them. In fact, there's a classic case of a report of the Public Accounts Committee, which, as you know, Public Accounts Committee in the former dispensation was chaired by the leader of the official opposition, which report could not get somebody to move because the person who was leader of official opposition became the president. So it became very difficult. People are just grappling around and saying, what do we say with this now? Which government are we referring to? Because, but those are things that we have been considered, none of Mule.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm happy, the Deputy Speaker is here. You can hear about those requests. Maybe when the committee, and Honorable Soipan, when the Procedure House Rules Committee considers those issues about lapsing of bills. But of course, there is that possibility, Honorable Mule. If you have a bill and you, unfortunately, God forbid, don't make it to the next Parliament, it will be so difficult for the new member who will have become member of Matungulu to come, and he will just pick it and throw it away. This was, he might not make anything out of it. And I'm saying this because, Honorable Mule, you know this. You have even had cases here of members having difficulties with the accounts of the CDF, because the members who are, the members who have taken over have come and rubbished whatever was being done by the previous committee, and then, so you can imagine with the bills. So we just have to allow it that a new Parliament should start from a clean slate.
Thank you. I stand guided.
That is the tradition.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Honorable Kisang, you don't have to make your request on this. But now we go to, there's a request by the Honorable Oundo.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on the legal and operational status of an entity referred to as the Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, KTLN. Honorable Speaker, sometimes in November 2020, an entity referred to as Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, KTLN, was created to enhance efficiency and coordination in the transport sector through fortifying public-private dialogue and leveraging on the efficiencies and synergies of the relevant state agencies. The state agencies placed under KTLN were Kenya Railways Corporation, Kenya Pipeline Company, and Kenya Ports Authority under the coordination of the Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation, SCDC, as a holding company. This new entity was to be overseen by the National Treasury. Honorable Speaker, the report of the Budget and Appropriation Committee on the budget policy statement for 2021-2022 and the medium-term and medium-term debt management strategy observed the National Treasury had been allocated 2 more programs which should typically be under Vote 1091, State Department for Structure. This was done without the program targets and key performance indicators which should allow effective oversight. It is worthwhile noting that their state agencies operate under different pieces of legislation, with each having different organizational structure and corporate culture. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on the following. Number 1, what's the legal status of the establishment of Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, KLTN? Number 2, what is the organizational structure of this new entity vis-a-vis the existing structure for Kenya Railways Corporation, Kenya Pipeline Company, Kenya Postal Authority, and Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation, ICDC. 3 was public participation and comprehensive stakeholders engagement undertaken regarding the creation of the entity, including engaging the Dock Workers Union as required under Article 10, 227, and 232 of the Constitution. 4 was the progress of the government undertaking to submit a legislative proposal for consideration by this House regarding government-owned entities. And finally, 5, could the chairperson explain the circumstances that led to KPA to license private companies, firms, namely MS Regional Logistics, Michel Courts, and Portside, to compete with the government with regard to port services, and how does this impact on the new entity? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Sorry, which committee? Finance and National Planning. I know that the chair, and that committee is currently holding a meeting with the Treasury officials to respond to several questions that some members have asked. So that your request will be channeled through the office of the Leader Majority. Honorable Undo, you can liaise with the Leader Majority to present the request to the Chair of Finance. Yeah. The next segment is responses. Honorable Karek Mbiuki, there's something you had suggested with Honorable Nasir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Mr. Speaker, I would request to give the following response to the two statements. One, Mr. Speaker, is from the member for Chepalungu constituency, the Honorable Gideon Koske, MP, who sought the statement for a statement on leopard menace in Chepalungu constituency, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c. Mr. Speaker, on the first question, which is that within which specific timelines shall KWS capture and relocate the leopard and its cubs from the aforementioned residential area in order to forestall the possibility of the residents taking the matter in their own hands. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, through KWS, protects, conserves, manages wildlife in the country, where there are designated wildlife protected areas known as National Park, National Resources, Reserves, Game Reserves, Sanctuaries, and Conservancies. Wildlife move in and out from these areas, resulting to a greater percentage of wildlife resident outside of the protected areas between the seasons. Mr. Speaker, the wildlife outside the designated protected areas interact with the people and sometimes resorting to human-wildlife conflict that may lead to human death, human injuries, predation on livestock, property, and crop destruction, and human rights. Mr. Speaker, Chepalungu constituency is one of the 5 electoral constituencies in Bomet County. It has notably a few cases of human-wildlife conflict compared to other constituencies in the region due to its location. Mr. Speaker, the constituency falls in between Masai Mara and Mau Forest. Masai Mara Game Reserve, where the majority of wildlife are confined and surrounded by the community conservancies that accommodate a high number of wildlife, thus cushioning Chepalungu constituency from experiencing conflict. Mr. Speaker, I have supplied the statement, the responses to the honorable member, but on the second question, which asked what form of compensation will KWS provide the resident who have lost livestock to the marauding leopard, and within which guidelines will the compensation be undertaken? Mr. Speaker, as regard to the compensation, a detailed report of the status of human wildlife compensation in Bomet County since 2015, indicating the names of the affected persons, nature of loss, and amount of compensation recommended to be paid by the Community Conservation Committee, totaling to 903 500 million. Mr. Speaker, 903,500 has been provided. The honourable member has been furnished with a detailed report. Mr. Speaker, the other issue was what short and long-term measures that the government have in addressing perpetual human wildlife conflict occasioned when wild animals stray in human settlement. Mr. Speaker, KWS is committed to significantly reducing the cases of human wildlife conflict throughout the country and works together with the other stakeholders, including the county government. So far, in Chapalungu constituency, the following measures are undertaken to manage the conflict. 1, proactive patrols, attending conflict cases upon receipt of report, facilitating compensation for loss due to wildlife, trapping and translocation of problematic animals, and lastly, Mr. Speaker, wildlife drives. Mr. Speaker, across the country, the following is being done to minimize the conflict. 1, a strategic deployment and staff to deal with problematic animals. This is achieved through the Rapid Response Unit, dubbed PAM, Problematic Animal Management Unit, together with over 157 stations spread across the country, and parks, and reserves problem with well-staffed personnel. These staffs are supposed to, in addition to management of wildlife, to undertake the awareness and creation of creating public awareness about the wildlife. Mr. Speaker, the government has invested on infrastructure such as wildlife barriers and community projects to minimize the effect of conflict and encourage coexistence. See, Mr. Speaker, KWS has conflict hotlines that are given to the public for swift reporting of conflict cases. There is KWS toll-free number at the headquarters, which is provided as 0800 597 1,000. The people of Chapalungu can, in addition, call 020 238 3242 for quick assistance. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the service also translocates problematic animals and undertake translocation of species of animals from an ecosystem whose carrying capacity is exceeded to other suitable ecosystem. And finally, Mr. Speaker, KWS facilitated the government-approved human wildlife compensation, which is designed to prevent the affected communities from taking direct action against animals that affect them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to submit. Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I would like to note the following, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have a big problem, and the issues of human wildlife conflict has been, this House has been seized with this issue for a long time. We have received so many petitions and statements and questions on issues to do with human wildlife conflict. Mr. Speaker, currently the approved compensation amount to more than 6 billion. But Mr. Speaker, the last financial year, what was provided for was roughly 600 million. In the current financial year, Mr. Speaker, what is provided for in the budget is less than 500 million. So, Mr. Speaker, you can be able to see the deficit which is there. Mr. Speaker, when we are doing the budget, and bearing in mind, this is the house which starts with the budget making process, I really pleaded with the budget committee so that we can be able to increase the amount of compensation by 1 billion. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we did not manage. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a bit frustrating, bearing in mind that as members, we are the people who are so much affected. Our constituents are so much affected by these issues of human wildlife conflict. But at the same time, we are unable even to give adequate budgets for compensation, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to submit, and I'd like to respond to the second question, the second statement, then we can be able to get any reaction from the questioners. Mr. Speaker, the second statement is from the Honorable MP on miners who lost their lives in Ikolomani constituency. Mr. Speaker, the first question, the honourable member asked that could the chairperson state whether the government is aware of a multitude of mining activities in the under corridor, attracting over 85,000 people, and that artisanal mines.
Honorable Karake, is the Honorable Shinali?
No, I cannot see him, Mr. Speaker.
I think just table it.
Okay.
He will read.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I
And
stand to be guided.
and the third one?
The other one we have discussed with Mheshimiwa Nasil, so that it can be deferred to tomorrow.
Honorable Abdul Samad, you have agreed with the chair that this one be done tomorrow. Very well. Then let me give the Honorable Koske the first chance to raise his intervention.
Thank you, Speaker. There seems to be, I don't know, misinformation that the chairperson environment is answering regarding the leopard menace in Chepalungu constituency. They came after almost 2 months when we had already sorted out ourselves the best way we know. What I understand, Honorable Speaker, if we don't take care of these wild animals in their protected areas, they will take care of us. They will feed on us. Honorable Speaker, I would not understand why the budget committee, in their own wisdom or lack of the same, decide to give 500 million to Environment Department for the compensation to the victims across the country. Currently, it stands at 6 billion for compensation that wild animals have messed up with the human being. It is very important going forward that the budget committee look at this issue of conflict of human life versus animals as a priority. Human rights are animal rights, or rather, human rights are anthropocentric in nature. Honorable Speaker, KWS has a huge number of officers who are able enough to take care of all the conservatives in Kenya. Going forward, if possible, KWS should be given enough money allocation so that they can be able to employ quite a number of youths who are energetic and able to take care of wild animals. Number two, they should also make sure that they fence all the conservatives across Kenya to fence enough that those animals cannot get out of their conservative areas. Because to this honorable house that have no facts on the ground, it's very important that you get facts on the ground so that you don't bring a lot of English over here, which are not just papers, which need to be trashed. The truth is, Kenyans are suffering out of these wild animals. A nation cannot prefer wildlife over human beings. Human beings are very important. Even in the Bible, Honorable Speaker, we are told that human beings were given powers to rule and lead and take care of these animals. But we cannot leave wild animals to take care of us just because of tourism who are coming over. It's very important. We understand when we welcome tourism to come over here because we get foreign earnings. But we need to also take care of human beings. If we cannot feed these wild animals, they will come and feed on us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I submit.
Yeah, I was going to submit, but you know, I thought Honorable Soipan wanted and indicated, yes, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I hear the chair of the committee responding to Honorable Koskei, it almost becomes a duplicate of what I heard when I brought a statement here concerning human-wildlife conflict in Narok. And this time, I think the Chepalungu people are a bit lucky that it's, the way I heard it, I think it's one leopard. Now, in Narok, it's an everyday occurrence, Mr. Speaker. And the response we get is, I sympathize with the chair when he raises the issues concerning budget. But, Honorable Speaker, it just baffles me that, what we see the Kenya Wildlife Service do, despite the budget issue, is that when it's the wild animals that are in trouble, they will appear in lightning speed, with lightning speed. But when it is human life or or loss of life and property, the speed with which they respond is questionable. That is one problem. The second problem, Honorable Speaker, that we need to unlock the deadlock is concerning the budget. When it becomes the discretion of the Treasury to know how much money to give towards human-wildlife conflict cases, Kenyans will continue to suffer, Mr. Speaker. But then again, our budget committee, I think we need to put our foot down, because this is a problem that is affecting Kenyans every day. The wildlife are a great resource for this country, bringing untold, huge contribution to the GDP. But then we cannot continue pressing on the custodians of this wildlife. We will be wanting to have our cake and eat it at the same time. Mr. Speaker, I think the chair, Honorable Kareke, I think you need to come out clear and tell us what is the problem. Is it the budget committee? Is it Treasury that is sitting on money that Kenyans should be able to benefit from because of the human-wildlife conflict? Because then, Kenyans will be left with nothing to do but kill these wild animals, which is unfortunate because it's going to affect our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It raises very substantive issues in this House. The ministries should be able to treat each case as a different case, not just rewriting a report and submitting to the chair. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the reports that have been submitted before, because this issue of wildlife has been raised, human-wildlife conflict has been raised on several occasions on this House. And I've been very passionate because Endebess, we have Mount Elgon National Park in Endebess constituency, in which we have serious issues on human-wildlife conflict. We have issues of elephants, we have issues of warthogs, we have issues where they are able to eat all the maize that the farmers have planted. And we get the agricultural officers to go and do assessment, make a report, it is submitted, compensations wait. We have elephants killing people. We have elephants which have injured people. So this, I think, when you talk about even issue of having 500 million is not little money. At least if I see that a few people in Endebess have been compensated for their crops, they have been compensated for their injuries, it makes some sense. 500 million is good money to begin from. But that 500 million, I don't know where it goes. It does not reach the people of Endebess. So I think it has to be chronological in terms of how compensations are done, so that first injured is first compensated. Then once that is done, we can be able to appreciate. The other issue which was raised in that petition was the issue of the wildlife askaris beating wananchi, beating wamama, beating those people who are in their daily hustles, who are looking for their day-to-day living. They have gone to the forest maybe to look for firewood, or they have even gone to their farms within those areas which are neighboring there. When the KWS cards come, they beat them. That has not been answered. And that's why I'm saying there are things that these people are just rewriting. They just change maybe the date, change a few things here and there, and then give you a report. But every case must be treated as an individual case. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ole Sankok, take 1 minute, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, we are very passionate when it comes to the issue of human-wildlife conflict because we have been affected ourselves. We have lived with this wildlife, Honorable Speaker. We have donated our land so that we can have these wild animals, Honorable Speaker, that attract so many tourists that start by bringing dollars all the way from the airport, Nairobi, and all the cities, Honorable Speaker. But it seems that the government have not been taking care of us. Hearing from the statement from the chairman, Kareke Mbigu, Honorable Speaker, I sympathize with him because probably this is just a copy-paste kind of response that he was given, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, personally, I have somebody by the name Walandaya. I think Honorable from Chapalungu is lucky that he only encountered one leopard. Somebody by the name of Walandaya lost 68 sheep and goats out of the 71 that he has. There are only 3 remaining. One is limping, and the other one have a small disease called sham-sham. Honorable Speaker, we also have, Honorable Speaker, another fellow who lost the entire cows, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, there is also another one who lost the whole farm, Honorable Speaker. He had actually maize, 3 acres, Honorable Speaker, and around 10 elephants.
Without really having any disrespect to my colleague, Honorable Ole Sankok, you know he did a Bachelor of Science Nursing in University of Nairobi. He's a medical graduate. So when he talks of sham-sham disease, and he has a medical background, I think that should not go into the Hansard. He needs to tell us what is sham-sham, what is this disease called sham-sham.
Honorable Speaker, I didn't do veterinary medicine, so forgive me, Honorable Speaker, because I only know that disease in our own mother tongue. It is called sham-sham. So now we'll ask if there is any veterinary doctor to translate.
Now, how is the chairman going to understand about that if it is only known in your language? Sham-sham.
It's not sham-sham, it is sham-sham. So, Honorable Speaker, so we are affected, Honorable Speaker, and we are very passionate. Sometimes when you hear some of us even speaking in Kimasai, it is sometimes because of how much we have been affected by these wild animals. So I think it is this House to make sure that there is budget, Honorable Speaker, because when animals are affected, when animals are in distress, I don't know where KWS officers appear from, but they just come immediately. But when human beings are crying, Honorable Speaker, they don't come. When they come and find mothers getting firewood from game reserve, Honorable Speaker, they are beaten, Honorable Speaker, as what Honorable Dr. Pukos have said. They are harassed, Honorable Speaker. But when animals are in our farms, so we are harassed when we are in the game reserve, but when the animals who are supposed to be in the game reserve come to our homes and eat our livestock, Honorable Speaker, we are not also saved from them, Honorable Speaker. So I think what Honorable Koskei have raised is very important. And Chairman, please, even if it means that you have to go and Google Masai, even if you have to go down to Masai and Narok and know what is sham-sham, you have to know all these diseases, you have to know all these problems that we are facing so that you can assist us. Because you have donated land, Honorable Speaker, for those animals.
Very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Even as I allow the chairman to respond, you know, we are still not in business. You know, ordinarily, but let me also say this. When the idea of statements was first broached after the promulgation of the new constitution, it was because it was known that there would be no ministers in the House. The assumption was that when a request is made for a statement, and somebody from the executive pens down some statement under their hand, it would be something that is truthful, factual, and a document that you can stand before anybody, any institution, and defend. That was the assumption. And that's what, those are the traditions. Indeed, I'm not too sure whether the Honorable T.J. Kajwang was with us when we were trying to make some reviews, when we visited France, when there that a minister comes and reads their statement, and there are no questions, and you table it because you can vouch for what is contained in it. But now some of these, the statements that are being read here, and you can't blame the chairman, the chairman or chairpersons of the committees. You just wonder whether what kind of people work in the executive, because listening to that statement, you wonder really, does this person think that this statement is being given to kindergarten, in nursery school, or is it to adults who represent voters? Because you can never make sense out of some of them. But you see, the unfortunate bit is that since we don't have the executive here, it's the chairperson who takes the flak. Yet we know very well, even as the Honorable Sangok says that the chairman must go now and learn some Kimasai about diseases, Samsung, I don't know. Yes, Samsung. I thought that was a mobile phone company. Samsung. Something similar to that. But now, surely, even if the chairman is going to learn those things, but he's not the one who can authenticate that statement. The assumption was that, indeed, it is supposed to be a hallowed statement. The person who has even signed for it can stand before even a court of law and defend the content. But listening to some of them here, you start wondering, really, are you taking the House for what it is? So, again, Honorable TJ, since you are still in the Rules Committee, Procedure House Rules Committee, I think you can see this thing about these things not helping the House, because members' expectations of in the request are not being met on a daily basis. Honorable Nyika, I wanted to give the Honorable Kareke Mbiuki a chance to just respond to the Samsung and others, so that then I can give you a chance to. Honorable Kareke Mbiuki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think you have put it well. And I really want to empathize with the honorable members, because this issue of human-wildlife conflict has been with this House for a long, long time. And it's like we are not about to come to the end of it. Mr. Speaker, the bottom line, it is the work of KWS to ensure that wildlife are kept in the parks or in the sanctuaries, and human stays outside the parks. But Mr. Speaker, we expect animals getting out. And Mr. Speaker, instead of the wardens being there to protect the human beings, they end up protecting animals more than they protect the human beings. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a problem. But Mr. Speaker, sir, we also need to appreciate that we have serious problem of budget, because the last time KWS were given resources to recruit wardens was way back in 2016 or thereabout, Mr. Speaker. So even due to the retirement of wardens, we have serious scarcity of personnel, whereby they are not given the resources to recruit or even the clearance by a Public Service Commission. But Mr. Speaker, the most frustrating thing is that this is the House which passes the budget. As a committee, we are cognizant of the fact that they approved human-wildlife conflict compensation, the one which have been approved, they are totaling 6 billion. The amount which are not been approved can go to more than 10 billion, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, when the State Department of Wildlife came to the committee, they requested us as a committee to enhance the same. But unfortunately, the National Treasury had set a ceiling of 500 million. We made a presentation to the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee declined it, Mr. Speaker. They said we are not allowed to increase the ceiling. Mr. Speaker, subsequently, even as chairs, we were called to the State House. And we were told to bring it to the level of the ceiling, Mr. Speaker, because this budget is managed by IMF. So there's nothing which can be done, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as we also say that we are the organ which make budget, our answer I retired. The only thing as a committee which we are able to do, Mr. Speaker, is just to do reallocation within the sector. Nothing beyond that, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a problem, we have a challenge, which we need to find a way of addressing. And I'm happy the leader of the majority is here. We are with him in that particular meeting. I don't see the chair of the budget here. The budget committee basically declined even to increase our budget by 1 billion. What will we do, Mr. Speaker? As a committee, we did our part. There's nothing much you can do. Our hands are tied. Mr. Speaker, I rest my case. Thank you.
Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of our interaction with the executive, actually there's a gap that needs to be filled. Mr. Speaker, you will remember that at the beginning of the 11th Parliament, there was a serious discussion, and actually there was an agreement almost that even though the speakers are not members of Parliament, we can actually create a corner where normally the minutes of the CS for Cabinet Secretary for Finance read the speech from. And actually you made those arrangements. If the Cabinet Secretary for Finance can come to the House in that arrangement and read the statement, I do not see why in such important issues where you want the minister to hear and have the feel of what the members want to say, why they can't come and actually read the statement from there. We hope maybe if we go through the referendum and we change the constitution, it will come. But from what I saw in the 11th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, I think it is something we need to revisit. I myself have been responsible for writing answers and reports for ministers. And it is clear at that time that if the minister was coming to the floor of the House and you were writing a statement, you even had to imagine and think what could be the supplementary questions that can arise. What are related issues that the members can bring? And sometimes when we became with the transmission, live transmission, we would sit and actually listen to what the minister said and listen to the questions that the members are asking. That time, we also had assistant ministers. I think my minister may be here, Honorable Saban. So we would actually wait, and if questions arise, you will write short answers, text or call the assistant minister and say, we can see the minister is going to face that. Our supplementary answer did not include that. So the process was taken very, very seriously. I think what is happening now, Mr. Speaker, is they are looking for a statement, and who are giving the statement to the chair of the committee. And I don't think the relationship between our chairs and the cabinet secretary is what it should be in some cases. I think some of our chairs have actually taken a subordinate position before the cabinet secretary. So that is the way the statement is treated. So I myself feel, Mr. Speaker, that we are actually wasting time with this statement. Either we ask questions and the ministers come to the committees, or we take a bold step. Maybe it is too late in the day to actually make arrangements, let the ministers, the cabinet secretaries appear in the House. They can sit, they can be in the corners. They will always come with the battery of the people that sit with them and help them answer supplementary questions that come. Then the House will be acting seriously. As it is, the issue of seeking statements, I don't think anybody takes it seriously. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it is something we should seriously look at again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, of course. And I've said it in the past that some of these matters, because it's best when you ask a question, so that even if it's going to appear before the committee, the member asking the question is present and is able now to press. The chairman will be there to moderate. Yeah, the chair of the committee will be there to moderate that session, the question and answer. always ensuring that the questioner has the first chance to raise the supplementary and any further clarifications, and other members can also chip in, help the member, with still the member being given the last chance to ask the last question. That their own practice. That is the practice under their own dispensation. Otherwise, this one of these statements, I think, we keep bashing the chairs of committees, and yet we know they are not they are merely passage. I mean, they just bring in the chair of energy has just mentioned to me that the response he has gotten to a question, to a statement, is so hopeless. And I think we have agreed with the chair that you go and call the cabinet secretary to appear before the committee. Even in these statements, some of these statements, I think we'll have to convert them to questions so that the cabinet secretaries can appear and respond to members' questions. These others here, we can't, it's not helping. It's not helping. We'll continue so that let those cabinet secretaries, since they sit with the CS Treasury, if they come and say, they argue that we could not pay this compensation because we didn't have budget, then it's his responsibility to look for that budget for his ministry. So he sits with the cabinet secretary for National Treasury, looks for budget from them. Because now they are just passing the buck, and I think it is not helpful at all. Let's proceed to next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020. Question to be put.
If I could get the member for Homa Bay, takes their seat a bit, just briefly. And this member for Laikipia, just, you walked in at 16:38 p.m. It's less than 4 minutes since you walked in and you don't want to sit. Fortunately, I always check when I see some of you walking so that I'll be able to tell you what time you arrived. And I always keep it always sticks. So it was 16:38. But because I knew the member for Laikipia, within a very short time, request for an intervention and insist that she wants to speak. So I have to make sure that you are not very many of you. I do that, but for some of you, because I know you will always want to speak, and it's okay. But it's good to also let you know that as you walked in, you found others. So, honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded. What remained was a question to be put, which I hereby do. That this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover, yes, the mover.
Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Chair of Health, I beg to move that the Kenya National Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020, be now read at that time. And so, Speaker, as I move, I also want to thank the members for the dedication they had yesterday as we went through this bill, and the commitment to really revamp this very vital service that's required for life-saving issues, and also thank the Health Committee for the input they have made into improving this bill. I beg to move, and I also request the Honorable Dr. Nyikal to second.
Honorable Dr. Nyikal.
Mr. Speaker, I second, and as I second, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that this is an extremely important bill that we are going to pass into an act of law. Blood transfusion is a service that saves life. And as it is being passed into an act, it really should be implemented. We made some amendments, particularly the recruitment of technical heads that are required there should be done in time. So, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Members, I propose the question, which is that the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020, may now read a third time. So there's I put the question. I therefore put the question, which is that the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2020, be now read a third time. Will as many as without opinion say aye? Aye. As many of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to establish the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service to provide for the regulation of the activities relating to blood donation, testing, processing, safeguarding, transfusion, quality control, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 9, approval of the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations 2021. Question to be put.
Honourable members, I put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management in brackets Equalization Fund Administration Regulations 2021, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, July 1st, 2021, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 205, Subsection 1 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021, published at Legal Notice number 54 of 2021. Will as many as without opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honourable members, I have received some additional proposed amendments to the business appearing as under numbers 10 and 12. Those proposals have not been considered by the Finance Committee, and therefore they cannot be considered with regard to the recommendo, which was directed, and must first of all be taken to the Finance Committee. And since they found those proposed amendments, one by the Honorable Wamunyinyi, to be, first of all, has to be considered by the Finance Committee, because, honourable members, knowing the nature of this bill, if we are not careful about what we put in, then we run the risk of taking this bill the same route that a previous one, if you remember, which was moved by the Honorable John Bandi, went. So it's fair also for members to appreciate that it doesn't matter how emotional we may feel. You look at the provisions of Article 230 of the Constitution with regard to the powers of the SRC. If we make things that appear to fly in the face of that Article 230 with regard to its powers related to benefits and emolument and remuneration of state officers, it is immaterial whether we pass it even with the 349 of us. It will still be struck off. And you know, there are so many people out there waiting to play those kind of games. So I think it's important that that proposal, and I think another two, be considered by the Finance Committee So the committee will make a report to the House, and the House can be able to, first of all, debate what they think of that, those proposed amendments before we can include them in the order paper. And therefore, for the convenience of the House, I have directed that the business appearing as orders number 10 and 12 be deferred to another date. Thank you, members.
Order number 11, motion, alteration of the calendar of the House.
Leader Majority.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28.4, this House resolves to alter its calendar of the for the fifth session, regular sessions, as adopted on Wednesday, the 10th of February, 2021, and amended on Tuesday, the 8th of June, 2021, by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session, so that the short recess commences on Friday, the 9th of July, 2021, and ends on Monday, the 2nd of August, 2021, and B, that the House resumes its regular sittings on Tuesday, the 3rd of August, 2021, to continue the second part of the session. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee, as you reported earlier in your communication, is cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of pending business at the committee level. And because of the limited sittings and limited participation by the members, it will not be fair to put so much pressure on the committees and only give them 2 weeks during which to process most of that. So business then, House Business Committee then looked at consider giving the committees an extra 1 week so that during the 3 weeks, most of the individual member bills, the government bills, the committee bills can be processed so that when we come back, we will concentrate more on processing those bills to their final conclusion, especially noting that some of those bills will need to also go to the Senate. And we are all politicians. We know that the season, the transfer window season, the season of getting back to the electorate is coming. And hence, if we are not able to process most of those here and in the Senate, most of the work we put in generating of those bills could go down to in waste. And hence, that's the reason we are reorganizing this calendar to provide committees more time for this session. And when we come back, then we'll be able to look how we keep tweaking the calendar to ensure we maximize on the work of the committees and the work of the House and process as much as possible before we all get very busy with the electorate. So, Honorable Speaker, I really don't to belabor the point is really, you did indicate the 54 bills that are pending before the various committees for which we're expecting reports. That's only individual members' bills. I also have so many of my bills that are pending before the committees, for which I don't have reports. And like you said, it would be unfair for members to start debating without the benefit of what the committee has looked at, what the committee has listened to the people who came through public participation, so that as we end up taking the bill all the way to the third reading, at least we've had the benefit of the input from everyone. So that's really the main import of this alteration of the calendar. And hence, instead of then coming back after 2 weeks, we'll end up coming back after 3 weeks. Then we'll have a 3-week session, and we'll, depending on, by the end of that time, the committee will meet again to agree on whether we just move on to the long recess or tinker around with it to accommodate the wishes of members and the timings. Also knowing that, COVID is still with us, so there's limited interaction out there anyway. and it's best we actually do most of the work from here. So, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, and I request the Honorable Soipan to second, especially since she'll be a critical. She hardly gets the time to speak by virtue of being the speaker. So,
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Very well. I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to alter its calendar for the 5th session as adopted on Wednesday, 11th of February 2021, and amended on Tuesday, 8th of June 2021, by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session, so that A, the short recess commences on Friday, 9th of July 2021, and ends on Monday, 2nd August 2021, and B, the House resumes its regular sittings on Tuesday, 3rd August 2021, to continue with the second part of the session. I put the question? Let me put the question. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28, subsection 4, this House resolves to alter its calendar for the 5th session as adopted on Wednesday, 10th February 2021, and amended on Tuesday, 8th of June 2021, by varying the period for the short recess with respect to the second part of the session, so that A, the short recess commences on Friday, 9th July 2021, and ends on Monday, 2nd of August 2021, and B, the House resumes its regular sittings on Tuesday, 3rd of August 2021, to continue with the second part of the session. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I think, honourable members, I may just wish to announce, so this is a matter that the House Business Committee discussed, and we, maybe after we finish today's night sitting, is it night or evening sitting? We may have to revert to our normal sessions as per the standing orders when we resume on the 3rd of August. And this is also in recognition. The House Business Committee did discuss and agree that indeed the House has done quite commendably well, and that if we went back to the normal sittings as contained in the standing orders, we will still be able to deal with and finalize most of the pending business before we take the long recess. And it's for that reason that, remember earlier on, we saying that now, and the little majority has added, which I did not want to touch on in my communication earlier, but I was mainly concerned with the private members' bills pending before committees. But as the little majority has said, of course, there are several other bills, government bills pending before committees, and also bills from the Senate, majority of which, as I said, almost 99% of which are private members' bills. So at least the resolution is passed, unless somebody, when we resume, moves another motion to alter the calendar from what it is in the standing orders. We'll move to the next order. But I believe if you hear the Honorable Pukose agreeing, and you know he is permanently in the chamber, it is in a recognition, acknowledgement that indeed the House has worked quite hard.
Order number 13, the County Government's Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2018, second reading, resumption of debate.
Who was on the floor? How many members contributed? 14 members. Yeah, Honourable Member, this is a Senate bill. It's a bill originating in the Senate, it's amending the County Government Act. There's nobody on the floor, so it's open to anybody. Any member who has not, Honourable Kimunya, you have not contributed? Very well. You can, you have a first chance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Let me start by thanking the committee for reviewing this bill. And I am having a lot of problems supporting this bill. And it becomes very clear, Honourable Speaker, when you look at what the Senate bill is trying to do is to amend the, I think, Section 58 of the Clause 58.
Leader Majority, if I may just interrupt you shortly.
Yeah.
Just to give this information for the benefit of members. The members who have so far contributed to this bill include the mover, the Honorable Peter Mwadi, seconder, the Honorable Makali Mulu, the Honorable Sankok, the Honorable Edith Nyense, the Honorable Washira Kavinga, the Honorable Milio Diambo, the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, the Honorable Chris Wamalwa, the Honorable Rueda Obo, the Honorable Ochieng Awor, the Honorable Jesira Cheruyot, the Honorable Esther Pasaris, the Honorable Jennifer Shamala, the Honorable Angatia Safula. Those are the members who have so far contributed. Therefore, the rest of you, and I'm just saying that the rest, so the list is not bad as it appears here.
Thank you. No, Honourable Speaker,
it's endless.
The drafter of the bill, indeed, and even the processing of this bill in Senate, it's aiming to do two things. At Section 58, which defines very clearly about the board and the composition, at Part C, it defines, the one of the critical members of that board is the county secretary. Is a critical player in the county government. And in the wisdom of this House, when this was done as part of actualizing the Constitution, the secretary to the board was defined, and indeed in about all the bills where we have created the position of secretary to the board, it was a requirement that that person shall be a certified public secretary of good professional standing, nominated and appointed by the governor with the approval of the county assembly, who shall be the secretary to the board. That is the current law. Now, there's a reason why you need a professional as the county secretary, and somebody of good standing who is accountable to a body that can discipline the person. Now, what this bill is attempting to do is actually to remove that professional qualification and just say now it's a person does not require to be a secretary to the board, the county service board, that you don't require any professional qualification. And we know the problems the county governments are having. They actually require that person more than any other, because who is going to guide them on the law of meetings? Who is going to guide them on how to even sort out some of the issues that they are having in their meetings? This is basically killing devolution, yet Senate is mandated to protect devolution. If you now have that governor can appoint anyone without any qualification, and you bring them to be the secretary to the board, you are basically going the reverse of what was done. Now, while still, nobody, neither the committee nor the mover of the bill, has told us, after 8 years or 9 years now of implementing devolution, what is it that has informed this removal of the county secretary, except the fact that they question governors. And governors want weak people in there. So there are some members in the Senate, I don't want to assume this is the motive, who are also aspiring to be governors. And I think it will be unfortunate to weaken institutions.
Honorable Owen Baya, you say point of information, is it?
I just want to...
No, if it's information, the person to be informed has to accept, to agree to be...
It's very important to clarify something.
No, you'll have an opportunity to contribute.
Having practiced this law, he is confusing the county secretary and the secretary of the Public Service Board.
No, now you're arguing. Now you're arguing. That's not information. No,
I want him to get it clear.
Because you have not contributed, you get a chance to contradict him.
No. Honorable, I can help you more in this matter. You know, I was involved in the drafting of this original bill, the original act that the Senate is now attempting to mutilate by removing professionalism from the board. Now, it gets even more comical because the same bill that we are now discussing is now attempting to say for the chairman, he needs to be a member of some body they are calling a human resource institution. I don't even know whether there is such a body that has been established. Now, and an act of parliament. Now,
IHRM
is an institute of human resource managers. That's managers.
By an act of parliament.
It's there. But now, the problem I'm having is that you are saying you don't, as the secretary who is the technical advisor to the board, does not require to be a professional. But the chairman needs to be a member of the human resource management. Now, chairman and human resource are totally different. A chairman is a leader. You know, it's like to carry the vision of the board, not to manage human resources. So the law in itself, the two things they're doing, unless it's somebody who looks like, in my county, I have a person who is a member of that, I would like him to be the chair of the board. And because that person should be the one kowtowing to the governor, will be weakened by having, or strengthened by having a secretary who is not a professional, who cannot bring professionalism into the operation of the board. So based on those two, because that's the two amendments. Now the committee agrees, I agree with the committee, our committee agrees that the chair does not need to have those qualifications. So the committee is actually proposing an amendment which will remove that second amendment. Now, you're only left with one amendment which is now weakening devolution. And hence, I'm looking at this bill, I don't even know why we started in the first place. The committee should just have recommended that we don't bother with it. And I'm actually be recommending to this House that this bill should not go beyond the second reading, so that we don't waste time allocating or coming to bring in amendment to basically delete what they have done and make it zero. Because if I bring an amendment to remove this alteration to the public secretary, and the committee brings one to remove the qualification of the chair, then the bill becomes zero, because those are the only two amendments that it has. So I want to urge members really to think that we are putting 400 billion into the counties annually. Cumulatively, I think we've done 2.something trillion in the counties. The reason we are not getting part of that impact is that the professionalism that's required to support devolution is not there. And even the little that's there is now under threat of being removed. Soon, we will be talking of, we don't even need the accountants should not have professional qualification, because we will start eating into, remove the secretary, now remove the accountant, remove the medical, and the next thing that will happen is we'll be back to the old county councils, where councillors just sit around there and do things in their own way, and we will lose devolution. And the amount of money we are giving, and the hope that our people are having, with the 14 devolved functions, and they're relying on those people to sort out the agriculture. The county service board is the one that recruits the people, is the one that places people into positions. Now, if it's not professional itself, how will they advocate for professionals within the chief officers? So we are basically, I think it's something that's so unfortunate, having this having come from Senate. You'd have expected this to come from a county assembly who want to have one of their own appointed, but certainly not from the body that has been constitutionally mandated to protect devolution and to protect the interests of the counties. But this is actually a weakening, and it's so unfortunate that the Senate considered this and thought this is the best thing to happen since sliced bread. Yeah? By actually trying now to weaken the very institution that has a core of providing the manpower and sorting out the manpower and women power or the human resource for the county. And all they can think of is, let's get a person who is HR to chair the county service board. Yeah? What you need is professionals in that team and a chairman or chairperson who has a broader vision of looking at, this is what our county needs to do. Where do I get the right people to put in this position? But not just making it like, these are HR function of the county, and hence remove the professional, bring an HR person, as if it's a department, that should be at the chief officer level. I wish they are talking of the chief officer for human resources should be a member of the IHRM, yeah? But not trying to sort out at the board level. So I may go on and talk about this, but because I believe in professionalizing most of these things. I've been chair of ISPAC for, I think, now, when I look at it, even my staff keep telling me that let me not talk for those years. But I think I've been a member of the accounting body as a registered professional for the last 34 years. And I was chair of ISPAC in 2001, from 1999 to about 2001. I've been a member of the Certified Public Secretary's profession. And I know that even in the bill we passed yesterday that was read here, the Kenya National Library Service Bill, which is now on its way to becoming an act, made a requirement that the secretary to the Kenya National Library must be a member of CPS. And every bill that we passed here, it's a standard requirement. So why are we now starting to doubt our own wisdom in creating these laws so that we will be actually talking of plowing back on the gains we made in professionalizing public bodies? I think, members, I would urge that we don't even spend a lot of time on this thing. Yeah? We, for the record, we will need to put in our comment, but I would wish that we show Senate we are the real protectors of devolution. We are the ones who appropriate the money, and we want that money to be taken care of at the ground by professionals at all levels within the county government. Mr. Speaker, with those words, I with regret beg to oppose this bill.
Professor Oduor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I look and seek to contribute to this County Government Amendment Bill 2018, I would like, Honorable Speaker, to start by indicating that as the Chair moved the amendment, there was the observation, Honorable Speaker, that there could be in section 1A, where there is indication that in nominating or appointing a person as a member of the board, the governor shall observe the principles of gender equity, ethnic and other diversities. Honorable Speaker, I support the bill, but Honorable Speaker, as I support the bill, I realize that I support it with reservations, because I looked, Honorable Speaker, at this particular amendment, and I wanted first to speak to the comments by the chair, because the chair at that time seemed to suggest that we do not need to repeat, because these are really articles or requirements that are already stated in the Constitution, and therefore we really don't have to include it in an amendment. But Honorable Speaker, my submission is that it is important to consider the Constitution as a broad framework, and that as we then begin to come up with the bill and seek to then get to determine how it becomes a very key way by which we determine and interpret what we need to do, we can interpret and we can repeat, Honorable Speaker. And when we do, my submission was, Honorable Speaker, that I have, as I sit in this August House, Honorable Speaker, been of the view that there are times when the broad framework of gender equity and equality, as was in the mind of the framers of the Constitution, is not as clearly debated or articulated so that we can do justice, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I, looking at this amendment bill, have confirmed, Honorable Speaker, that in this bill we also seem not to be clearly capturing that, because, Honorable Speaker, when we look at the amendment, then we see that in 1B, Part B, the bill then says take into account the national values and principles. And Honorable Speaker, the bill talks about Article 10, Article 27, and in both of these articles, Honorable Speaker, we are actually speaking very specifically about observing human dignity, equality, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. In the same way, Honorable Speaker, when we look at Article 27 of the Constitution that the amendment speaks to, and which the amendment presents as separate from the gender equality, gender equity, then we also here, Honorable Speaker, find that in this article, the Constitution says that everyone and every person should be treated as equal. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, as I look at the County Government Amendment Bill, it is clear that the bill seeks to ensure that the county business will be handled effectively. But, Honorable Speaker, I would want, as I support, to have the reservations that it is not really clear what the bill then sees as useful in helping to uphold gender equality and gender equity, and indeed, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that we are addressing marginalization. Honorable Speaker, I would like to just indicate, Honorable Speaker, that there is a way in which we use the term gender, and we tend to assume that once you say gender and you say women and you mainstream, and then you say the governor shall observe principles, then it does not become clear that you are really talking about professionals. And Honorable Speaker, I want, as I speak to this, really coming to the end of my submission, that as I support, my reservation has become stronger listening to the majority leader, because I would, Honorable Speaker, want that we are aware that when we look at the Constitution, and particularly when we talk about gender equality and gender equity, we really are saying that we would like to give the same treatment. And Honorable Speaker, that if we need a professional, and I would agree with the majority leader, that it is important to have professionalism, have someone that would be seeking and who is engaged in activity and who would therefore be credible to be the secretary to the board. in the same breath, Honorable Speaker, I would want that we do not take the matter of gender as lightly as we sometimes have, because gender really is just recognizing that we have males and we have females, Honorable Speaker, and that there are going to be ways in which these males and females sometimes can be unfairly treated or marginalized, and that when we do this, Honorable Speaker, it simply means that we would want that there will be equal involvement, equal participation, and equal engagement. And therefore, that when governors were to consider that they are nominating persons to be in the board, Honorable Speaker, that they would not look for professionals who they would see as male, and Honorable Speaker, they would seek to complete the equation by looking around and picking any female that would not rise to the task or would not really be a professional. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I support this amendment bill, but with a lot of reservations, in particular because, Honorable Speaker, it seems by itself to be repetitive in ways that are not really necessary, but much more so, Honorable Speaker, to avoid a situation where we would be treating women and men in ways that do not necessarily uphold the equality and do not give the kind of respect and do not therefore allow at the county level that the participation of women who are professionals or women who are capable would be given as much time or equal opportunity as the men. So, Honorable Speaker, I support, but with reservations. Thank you.
Member for Garissa Township.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this bill and disagree with the leader of majority. And we have just discussed this matter. Well, number one, what we are dealing with is the 8th year of devolution since the new constitution of 2010. And in these 8 years, we have seen there's complete lack of professionalism in our counties, particularly in the delivery of key human resource development by our counties. Now, the County Public Service Board, which is the organ that is mandated, just like the Public Service Board at the county level in terms of recruitment of human resource personnel. And if you look at the County Service Board, Mr. Speaker, is akin to the functions of the Public Service Commission at the national level. And I'm sure the House will agree with me that the Public Service Commission plays a very critical and important role in terms of Article 232 of the Constitution. Now, so that tells us that there's a need, a very important need, for the county public service boards to practice and adhere to professionalism and therefore cannot have a situation where people are employed without any qualifications. So in this regard, Mr. Speaker, and I really want to indulge the House and maybe the leader of majority. You know, this bill, from where I see it, this Senate bill is seeking, number one, to address by providing additional requirements and qualification for the eligibility of the chairperson of the County Public Service Board. Because now what we have is that the governor can appoint anybody, even Mama Mboga. I'm not saying Mama Mboga cannot, I'm not demeaning her, but I'm saying the person to be, even the chair of the Public Service Board, as we have today. You know, you go back, are people who served as PSS in Sirius. You know, look at the late chair, Mr. Kirogo, was a person who has served at the head of public service, deputy to the head of public service. So this bill is saying that we will not allow the governor just to influence. So there must be a qualification and there must be additional requirement for the person to be the chair of the county's public service board. Two, This bill also tries to obligate the governor to observe constitutional principles in the appointment of the secretary to the county public service board. And I think where the leader of majority is confusing is the county secretary is different from the secretary to the county public service board. And I really want the Honorable Kimunya to listen to me. Honorable Kimunya, you are talking to a former county secretary. No, that's the former county secretary of Kilifi. No, you have information in as far as the county secretary. In this bill, we are dealing with the secretary to the county public service board. Those are two different things. So this bill is in the right place. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the leader of majority cannot tell this House that we should kill this bill. No. If there is any constitutional issues on any, whether it's a bill or a motion, any member should rise and raise the constitutionality of that bill. If the Speaker agrees with it, then it will be withdrawn. If you have issues, then you amend it at the committee of the whole House. But I think that was just of the say. So this bill, unless, and I hope the members will agree with me, is dealing with the two things. One, whoever will become the chair of the county public service board must have additional requirements and qualification. Yes. And two, it's saying, and Professor Duol said it, that in the appointment of the county, in the appointment of the secretary to the county public service board, the governor must put in place and observe constitutional principles in appointing secretary to the county public service board. Mr. Speaker, so in my view, I think the bill is trying to inject professionalism in the human resource functions of the county public service board. That is the gist, the alpha and the omega of this bill. Nothing else. And I think we should support it. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I have had a chance to look at the report of the committee. Because, you know, I have a lot of respect for the leader. Because he was my leader also in the 10th Parliament. He was a deputy leader of government business. When the leader of government business used to be the leader of Wiper. He never used to be in the House. So the work used to be done by Honorable Kimunya. You know, I have a lot of history. Kalonzo never used to come to the House. We used to deal with Honorable Kimunya. So he was my leader then, and he's my leader now. And I saw when he talked to me yesterday. So last night, I went and looked for the report. Because Parliament is, everything is online. I looked at the report of the Committee of Administration and Security Committee on this bill. And I know that there may be need to deal and amend the minimum number of years of experience required for one to be appointed the chairman. We might bring an amendment. The number of years for you to be the chairman of the county public service board, I don't agree with the committee. We might look at that. And also, so that we can give room to some young people to become chairs of our public service board and the elders to go and retire. You know, they have no business. So I think now I have done chair and I have convinced my leader that this bill has no business with the county secretary. And a county secretary is Honorable Baya. Baya, what brought him to this house? He was a county secretary. So this bill is dealing with the two offices, chairperson of the county public service board and the secretary to the county. I support.
The Honorable Mboko. Honorable members, we are going to follow the order here. There are 20 requests, and let us just be patient.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to make very few comments so that other speakers may also comment on the county amendment bill. I went through it yesterday, and what catched my eye first is what I'll go to. That on its provisions on subsection 3, where it's dealing with the qualifications for one to be the chairman of the county service board, the bill comes out very clearly to talk about the first requirement being that
the Honorable
chairman.
Pugose, I must warn you that you are next from this side, and if you insist on your point of order, you'll have taken your chance. The
Thank you,
Honorable
Honorable
it is
Speaker.
not catched, it is caught.
Okay, I may have just missed something, but I'm a teacher, and I may just have missed something. Because of the mask, my clean voweling is sometimes interfered by the mask. If it were off, you'll get it very clear. I'm a teacher, and I've been doing for this. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now, it seemed to say that, and it says that the qualification number 1 must be a degree holder. And I thought this is good for a general chairman to be at a level of a degree holder. The only comment I had is that these are the same team of people who are also doubting whether a degree is important for members of parliament or even members of the county assembly. But what I registered more keenly was the fact that the next requirement is that this person must have a background of human resource management and registered to the institution of human resource managers. I thought this was very limiting, and I want the House to listen to this, that if we go this direction, then we shall just be legislating for a particular profession. Yet, when you are being appointed as a chairman of the Public Service Board, you need to be a leader with broad qualifications that are not limited to human resource management. This, I thought, should come out quite clearly, because we have other professionals. We have accountants, we have teachers, we have lawyers, we have even veterinary people who are qualified and who can get qualified to be chairman of this board by the virtue of their experience in whatever places they have been working. Honorable Speaker, when the Constitution was being made, I happened to be the chairman of the Union Cuppet. And that time we were dealing with the chairman of that process, who was the young Achai. And the young Achai asked us about something which was so dear about the commissioners of the Teacher Service Commission. And that particular time was so psyched that everybody in the commission must just be a teacher. I'm telling you, Nyachai asked us 3 times, and we insisted everybody be a teacher. Later on, we realized, no, he was right and we were wrong. That we need a lawyer, we need an HR person, and we need people who also qualify in other places. Today, we are doing exactly that to just improve the operation of the commission. To limit the chair to just be a person of human resources, yet a chairman must be a leader who is respected within the county, I find this not very good within this amendment. Finally, when you go to its part 3 of B, they insist that in this amendment that the chairman must have a working experience of 10 years. Then I said, hey, with a high number of youthful people who have left the university, some have worked for 5 years, others for 3. Recently, in my own county, I saw a young girl miss a position in the Public Service Board simply because she was 35 years. And I said, yes, this one is missing simply because of experience. So I think an amendment alluded to by Nduwale that we reduce this age from 10 to 5 or 7 would be welcomed for me, so that we allow more players to also qualify for this position. What is happening, Honorable Speaker, in the counties is that with 10 years experience, we are limited to only bring people who had served in government, have retired, and must be brought back to work as chairman. But we must give chance to even to young people who are qualified and can still do their job. And this will be good. moving forward. Honorable Speaker, on the other parts of it, which has been talked about and which is very dear to Honorable Bayer here, I think I'll not be very sentimental about it, except for the issue of the secretary to the County Service Board, just in case that everything else about him is okay in terms of considering the Constitution, gender, and every marginalized groups. But the issue of professionalism will still be very important, that we have professionals within the county, because the county governments are thoroughly affected by the quality of people who are working in them. And this was very serious during the first level when the first governors came in, because they appointed anybody to these positions. And those anybody who are appointed are the ones who ran down the county governments. I come from the county government of Vihiga, and we saw it clearly. So it needs to be professionalized. And any law coming to this house that reduces the professionalism within the operations and workers within the county government is one law that we should reject. With those many, many points, I don't think I'll be supporting this law. I would rather reject it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this very important law, the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2018. Honorable Speaker, on the onset, I want to support this amendment. This amendment aims to amend Clause 58 of the County Government Act. And when you look at it, the amendment, where we are saying that the chair of the County Public Service Board should have human, the HR, human resource qualifications. The main work of the County Public Service Board is employment. And if you're going to do employment, you need somebody who understands the various, even qualifications, because more often you'll find that people are told to apply. And when you apply, the person who can advise you based on what are the documents that you need to be able to provide, and to see that everybody is able to, whoever is shortlisted or even interviewed, meets the relevant qualifications. Because if you just have a chairman who does not understand human resource, surely, I think that will be a problem. The second amendment aims to introduce the issue of the secretary to the Public Service Board should not have, yours is to be the secretary. You are taking minutes of the meeting. It's different from the county public secretary, who should be a holder of the certified public CPS, certified public secretary. What we need to provide in this amendment, Honorable Speaker, what is lacking, there is a lack of a link between the secretary to the Public Service Board and the county public secretary. Because the county public secretary is the one who will sign your letter of employment. And if that is the person who is going to sign the letter of employment, we must create a link between the board and the county public secretary. I think that is an amendment that we need to think and introduce it. Honorable Speaker, the requirement here again is to make it in line with our Constitution, where we are saying in the appointment of the secretary to the County Public Service Board, we must consider gender, regional balance, minorities. And I think this addresses major issues, Honorable Speaker, because when you look at a county, for example, where I come from, County of Trans Nzoia, the County Public Service Board has actually marginalized one of the second largest community in the county that is not represented there, the support community. It is not represented in the County Public Service Board. And my friend Ferdinand Wanyonyi can attest to that. So this addresses the issue that when you are appointing, consider all the communities. Consider the, for example, if you are in Trans Nzoia, consider the Turkanas, consider the Kisis, consider the Sabots, consider the Luyas, everybody, so that everybody has a share in the Public Service Board. Because when you put only one community, then the rest of the communities, the Kikuyus, the Kisis, everybody else is left out of that Public Service Board. It is unfair. So I think this is an amendment that is timely, and although things have moved on, but I think it will be able to, moving forward, it will be able to address the inefficiencies, the areas that we've left. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Atandi Onunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make a contribution on this bill. Honorable Speaker, in principle, I do not find anything wrong with this amendment. But, Honorable Speaker, Public Service Board, County Public Service Board, ideally is the engine of county governments, because this is the body that hires and fires the resources that serve us in the counties. And so I think that the law governing how this county's Public Service Board operates needs to be enhanced. And I have had people complaining that counties employ people from the same ethnic community. If you go to a county like mine, Siaya, you find that maybe 100% of county staff are from that place. If you go to a county like in northeastern or Garissa or Mandera, probably you'll find that the staff working there are people from the same community. And therefore, even though the Constitution says that, the law says that the appointment should meet ethnic diversity, you really cannot find that really being met in the appointment. And therefore, according to me, I think we need to make further adjustments in the law so that county governors are actually forced by law to comply with some of these constitutional requirements. Like, for instance, Honorable Speaker, this law allows governors to appoint members of the board. And then once they're appointed, the names are forwarded to the county assembly for approval. But it does not tell the governors how to appoint or where to appoint. If you look at the National Government Public Service Commission, the president is told to constitute a panel, and the members of that panel is given to him. And these panelists are the ones that will nominate the people to be appointed as commissioners. So I think even for this one, I think that we need to tamper with this law to force governors to meet something like ethnic diversity and minority considerations. Because if we do not do this, then you will find that there are counties where the governor has actually employed all his relatives. You find that the chairman of the Public Service Commission is a governor's relative, the members are governor's relatives, and therefore the governor will hire people who come from his own clan, for instance. And when a governor has hired people from his own clan, this is where now things like corruption begin. Because now they are able to agree and conspire and be able to, run down counties. I saw in the Senate where there was a petition to remove a governor, where the MCAs were saying that the county was being run by the governor's wife. How was that possible? It was possible because the team that is working with the governor are actually people from the governor's clan. And therefore, the wife can actually order them around and tell them to do this and this. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I think that I will consider an amendment to improve the structure of the composition of the members of the board of the County Public Service Board, so that we be able to give governors guidelines on who to appoint. And if we do that, I think we'll be able to be able to answer to the challenges facing counties. A law like this one, Honorable Speaker, actually is what is really supposed to help county governments to entrench integrity and also to be able to strengthen devolution. Devolution will not be strengthened by resources only. But I think if we have a law that is very clear on the appointment of staff of county governments, then it is going to be possible that county governments are going to give us services. I want to make a proposal, Honorable Speaker, that just like in the Public Service Board, in a National Public Service Board, the President is advised to pick a panel to nominate commissioners, and you find that in the panel, the President is told that the people to constitute that panel will come from, say, the AG's office, Institute of Human Resource Management, Federation of Kenya Employers, National Council of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Public Service. If we borrow that system and put it in law for counties, then you find that the governor will be compelled to have experts helping him to identify these commissioners. And if we have somebody from the AG's office sitting in that panel identifying these commissioners, board members, then probably we are going to have experts, people who will say that when you want to hire, for instance, a county executive officer, this person needs to meet the following criteria, and they will also ensure that the issues of diversity are addressed. Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I support this amendment, but I want to propose that I will bring further amendments to the law, and I will ask members of this House to support so that we can strengthen this law. Section 58 of the County Government Act, in order for us to be able to ensure that all these things we are saying should be met, will actually be met in the law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Mrugara.
No, I haven't spoken. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to add my voice to the proposed amendment. And from the outset, let me totally disagree with the leader of majority as regards what is being proposed to be done here. Mr. Speaker, we are amending Section 58 of the County Governments Act so that we are able to deal with two positions which, in my view, are professional positions as far as the county governments are concerned. And the leader majority, being a very experienced accountant, knows very well if we are to do anybody that is going to deal with accounts, we will be insisting that that body is actually handled by qualified accountants. Matters of County Public Service Board are purely human resource, employment and dismissal of employees. I know of a county where the governor came into office and directed that these people should be sacked, those ones should be employed, and what he has had for the last 4 years are court cases because he was oblivious to all the employment laws in the country, including labor relations. The first proposed amendment is the position of the secretary to the board. And the secretary to the board is not the same as the county secretary. The county secretary is the chief public officer in the county, equivalent to our head of public civil service. While the county secretary to the board deals particularly with the board matters. And this is why we make a provision that he cannot be appointed, nominated and appointed arbitrarily. We must have the county service board approving the person. So the governor cannot act whimsically to appoint this person with a view to controlling that person in its discharge of duties. This is why the county assembly must approve. Number two, we are saying that he has to be an ex-official. Otherwise, the Act does not provide for a sitting in the board. Therefore, we have to make a provision that he does sit in the board, he does take minutes, he does keep records, and he is accountable to the board. This is what we are trying to do. And in so doing, we are telling the governor, you must comply with the law. The constitution must be followed to the letter. You must observe gender equity, ethnic backgrounds, diversities, and the others. And this is apps and the marginalized communities, including people with disabilities, all that. And I always argue for this because I know my constituents are actually a marginalized lot. Having said so, we go to that second proposal, which is to introduce the qualifications of the chairman. And this is very important because this house, you remember, we got the county attorney's bill, which became an act of parliament. We had to set up the county attorney, equivalent of the country's attorney general. And the first qualification, you had to be a lawyer. You had to be an advocate, actually, with some standing of years so that you could qualify. Now, when you come to human resource matters, the best persons who can handle this profession are actually the human resource management professionals. Happily, we have an act of parliament equivalent to our Law Society of Kenya Act, equivalent to the Kenya Medical and Dentist Practitioners Act, equivalent to all professional bodies. And we are saying for the counties to run smoothly and for the counties to observe professionalism, which has been lacking in our counties. And I'm not ashamed to say so, because we know some of these governors have done atrocities against the citizens in the name of employing and dismissing, because you just want to get your own cronies, your own relatives, your greatest supporters into the county at the expense of merit and meritocracy. Therefore, it is important that the chairman now comes from this particular institution, which is called the Human Resource Management Professionals. Let him be a member, let him be qualified, so that we are all happy. And when we take him to court under the labor laws, we will be asking him as a professional, why did you do this? Did you give thought to this? Did you consider this? Did you do etc.? Otherwise, you employ a person who is not qualified, his answer would be, I do not know. And you cannot punish him on a mere technicality that lack of knowledge of law is not defense. And unfortunately, sometimes it is, because you may not have had the opportunity to know. In view of this, we are saying let him have 10 years. 10 years is relatively not much, but we can consider it as parliament if we feel we are trying to disenfranchise some of our youths from getting such jobs. I think for the district county attorney, we went down to 5 years. We may think of 5 years, we may think of any other number, but let us have a qualified person at the helm of the County Public Service Board. The chairman is one of them, the secretary is the other one, and let us have counties now beginning to gain a resemblance of professionalism when they are discharging their duties. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill.
The Honorable Odhiambo Akoth, member for Suba North.
She is waiting for what?
Oh, you are waiting for the next one?
Yes.
The one on top of the next one is the Honorable Oundo Ojiambo, the member for Funyon.
Thank you.
The Honorable Ojiambo Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute on the County Government's Amendment Bill 2018, Senate Bill number 13 of 2018. Honorable Speaker, the bill intends to amend Section 58 of the County Government Act, specifically to redefine the qualification of the secretary to the board and to redefine the qualification of the chair to the board. Honorable Speaker, There are obvious salient issues. Honorable Speaker, Section 58 of the Act, of the County Government Act, specifically 1C, states that there shall be a certified public account secretary to be appointed as secretary to the board. The amendment proposed by this bill is to remove that particular qualification. Honorable Speaker, in my understanding, the County Public Service Board is the board that undertakes recruitment, promotion, disciplinary, and related issues to the county human resource. And to my understanding, the secretary to the board is more or less like the CEO of the board. Honorable Speaker, removing the prerequisite qualification of being a certified public secretary essentially to weaken the working arrangements, or to actually weaken the county public service board. Honorable Speaker, any position, be it executive or otherwise, requires somebody who has got the relevant qualifications. Honorable Speaker, what the Senate is trying to do is to literally open it up to all Tom, Dick, and Harry to go and occupy a position that is purely technical and is purely professional. On that score, Honorable Speaker, I will personally move an amendment to literally delete that particular amendment and retain Section 58 as it is, 58 1C, as it is in the parent act. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the bill inserts a new section. That is 1B, that tells the board or the governor to comply with the principles of gender equity, ethnic and diversity of all the people of Kenya, and shall provide an equal opportunity for persons with disabilities. Honorable Speaker, my considered view and honest view is that this particular section or this particular clause is simply cut and paste from the Constitution. These principles are already enshrined in the Constitution. And where the governors do not practice or comply, then it's a matter that is subject probably for impeachment or other administrative action. We are simply overloading our acts of parliament with things that are already provided for. These are guiding principles. We are just being superfluous by stating what's already required everywhere. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, Section Clause 3, or subsection Clause B, that talks about the qualifications of the chair and the vice chair. Honorable Speaker, this brings into question, and I want to agree with the leader of majority party. We have two options here. One, if we remove the qualifications of the county secretary, the secretary to the board, to the county public services board, we could then consider introducing these requirements that one must be a human resource management professional of good standing and the Human Resource Management Professionals Act. But Honorable Speaker, the chair of the board ought not to be an executive chair. And indeed, the Act under Section 58 actually contemplates part-time. They are not full-time. He ought not to be a professional, but must be somebody with vast knowledge in human general management, adequate exposure to skills management, human skills management. Purporting that he has to be a human resource management, we are implying that this particular chairman is going to become an executive chairman in one way or another. The board, the chair of the board, chairs the board, offers strategic direction, and oversights the work of the secretariat. It will be unnecessary to have such a kind of a person having the same qualifications, because in any case, his job is basically to oversight and offer strategic policy direction. And again, tellingly, Honorable Speaker, is that there seems to be an attempt to separate the qualifications of the chair and the vice chair. It is indeed expected that the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall chair or preside over the meeting of the board. It's always imperative that both the chair and the vice chair have equivalent qualifications so that whoever sits on the chair is able to undertake the functions of the chair. Just for example, Honorable Speaker, when you are appointing or when you are electing, the president and the deputy president have equal minimum academic qualifications, so that in the event the president is not available or is not around, we have no constitutional crisis that the deputy president cannot occupy that particular position for lack of academic qualifications. Honorable Speaker, obviously then, in a way, we might end up literally deleting, which essentially will make, in any case, legislative process, which will have rendered this work surely a waste of time or anality, but nevertheless, most of the what are brought here does not really add any value to devolution. Honorable Speaker, when we were making the Constitution of 2010, one of the key planks of the Constitution of 2010 was devolution. We believed and truly believe that devolution was going to be the engine that's going to drive this country. But Honorable Speaker, you and me and most colleagues here have had very harrowing tales the way county governments are being managed. They are being managed essentially because of two issues: low human resource capacity, because many inherited the county council staff, many have been staffed with the political cronies, and less qualified people. Honorable Speaker, weakening the board will actually render devolution a wasted opportunity. We should actually be looking at strengthening the county public service board by populating it with people with the qualifications and people with integrity, people who can look at things in a very sober manner, not a politically inclined manner. So, Honorable Speaker, in essence, the amendments I will bring will literally render the bill, I don't know what word I would use, but will render the bill literally unenforceable or no bill at all. So on that score alone, Honorable Speaker, I oppose the bill in its entirety because there's nothing of value it is offering other than destroying the work, weakening the county public service board. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I stand to oppose.
The Honorable Member for Funyula, the word you're looking for is it will be rendered redundant. The Honorable Nanok Epuyo, Member for Turkana West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this amendment bill proposed by the Senate. And Honorable Speaker, right away I want to say it's like I was thinking in the same breath with my brother Mheshimiwa from Funyula. The proposals that are being made by this amendment that are being proposed, Chair, Speaker, do not seem to me to improve the act that is already there, because it is basically doing the two amendments, deleting the qualification requirements for the secretary to the County Public Service Board, And two, introducing qualifications on the part of the chairperson of the board to be a professional of the human resource, qualification. And Speaker, already as the Act is, the chairperson doesn't have those professional qualifications requirements. And I agreed with Mheshimiwa that you don't need to be a human resource professional to chair the Public Service Board at the county. I don't think it is meant to be, because that role is just to chair and ensure that the policies of the public service at the county level are adhered to. And so it requires your experience, it requires managerial capabilities more than the actual professional aspect of it. And when you now amend Part C of sub-article 1 of 58, Speaker, that is now where you are affecting the professionalism of the board, because it is the secretary to the board that is supposed to provide the executive role of this board. So, Chair, that's why I'm saying that I'm in support and I'm agreeing with my brother, Mheshimiwa Udo, that these amendments do not seem to improve the act that is already there. And therefore, Chair, as a Speaker, I actually don't think this bill should be supported, because it is not improving. If the whole idea of us legislating, Speaker, is to better the laws and the legislative framework that runs this country, whether at the county level, whether at the national level, then we should strive to bring amendments that are going to make the laws better, that are going to make the practices better. And so I question, what is the objective of this amendment really? And Speaker, on that account, then I can only make a guess that the amendments are actually allowing governors to appoint people of questionable qualifications and people who are amenable to arm twisting and given directions, which will not be the way to go in order for us to improve the county public service board. And we've seen this in practice, Mr. Speaker, in our counties, where employments do not consider the professionalism, they do not consider the type of workers that the county governments require in order for them to make the impact that the law or the Constitution of the Republic envisaged them to do. For instance, Mr. Speaker, some of the employees, and I don't begrudge the young adults in our country, but you find someone is employed as a senior position at 30 years of age. And this person is going to work, maybe even not 30, 20, 25, 23, and they're going to work for the next 40 years. At job group, say Q, where is the professional, where is the ladder of this guy going to end up at? He's going to hit the topmost job bracket after only 5 or 8 years, and he's there for 40 years. He's going to remain stagnating for half of his working life. That is demotivating, Mr. Speaker. And that is the kind of mistakes that have occurred in our county employments. And that is affecting productivity of our county employees. And so, Speaker, I do not really want to say I oppose, but because the bill is already here, I think with all the amendments that need to be brought, Mr. Speaker, as you said, the bill is going to be laid redundant after those amendments are done. And so, Speaker, I oppose.
The Honorable David Ouma, member for Ugenya.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've struggled so much to understand how Senate would spend its time. The bill is dated 2018, Mr. Speaker, meaning the bill has been pending for quite a while, 4 years. And it lands on the floor of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I can't see flesh. I can't see reason. I can't see mischief. I can't see what is being remedied by this particular act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thought that what is required of the Senate and of the county government is to try to come up with structures, systems that work, that do not replicate the national government structures. Mr. Speaker, if you go to the county governments today, you will find that they have somebody called the county executives who are called waziri. That's how they like to be referred to. So they are ministers. Then you have people called chief officers who prefer to be called PSS, so they are permanent secretaries, Mr. Speaker. Then you have directors, Mr. Speaker. Then you have deputy directors going down, replicating the bureaucracy of national government, which they didn't need. I would imagine that Senate would use its time better to help the county governments, put up systems and structures that would make these systems work, but not to, in my opinion, be very partisan. Because I'm almost certain, Mr. Speaker, that this particular bill must have come from an experience of a particular county governor. Mr. Speaker, I just don't know that the chairperson of a board, which the law says will be recruited competitively. That's what 158.2 says, Mr. Speaker. And that means that of the 5 members of the board, or 3 members of the board, there is an opportunity to have all of them, if you wanted, to be professionals that have some experience in human resource management. It doesn't have to be the chairperson only, Mr. Speaker. But if you check, Mr. Speaker, the counterpart law at the national level, Mr. Speaker, says this, as refers the chairperson of the Public Service Commission, that person shall be a citizen of Kenya, that holds a degree from a university recognized in Kenya, and has at least 15 years experience in their respective profession. Respective profession. Meaning, Mr. Speaker, that this is a leadership role that a lawyer, an engineer, anybody would be able to carry out. But locking them out, where are they even in the first place? These human resource management professionals, if you advertise them today, where are the countries going to get them from? Mr. Speaker, the job of the county service board chairperson is not to the, like Honorable Wondo said, not to do the day-to-day management. I would imagine, Mr. Speaker, if I was to be the one recommending this law, I would have then required, if I was mandated to remove the current qualification of the secretary, I would have then required the secretary to be the person with these qualifications, because this is the person who sits in that board on a daily basis. He is the ex-official member, he is the CEO of that board. I would then require this person to have better qualifications in that area, not the chairperson. But what are they doing, Mr. Speaker? They're removing even the basic qualifications that existed before on the secretary of the commission, of the board. So that what? If the person is going to be sitting there every day, it doesn't even require to have a degree. They've removed it. So how will he manage to function? So you're going to pick anybody from the village to be secretary of the board? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what the county, the Senate wants? Mr. Speaker, like the Honorable Majority Leader said, Mr. Speaker, this bill should not go beyond here. Until Senate then comes up with a proper bill, in my opinion, that streamlines the workings of the county assembly, county public service boards holistically, Mr. Speaker. I have a problem, Mr. Speaker. Everyone says that, if you appoint a professional, then there will be no interference. Who says so? That if you appoint an human resource professional to be the chair of this board, then the governor will not interfere. Where is the barrier? What makes the governor not be able to interfere even if he's a professional? I have a problem with that kind of reasoning, Mr. Speaker, because I believe that the county governor has a role. This idea that the county governor should not have a role in who becomes what in the county assembly, in the county's public service, for me, Mr. Speaker, is wrong. It's a pretense that you should drop. If you're the head of the, if you're the head of the county, people are being employed in your county, you must have interest. This idea that, oh, you know, the governor should not interfere, the governor should not say, I think it's a lot of pretense for nothing. If I was a governor, I would want to know who's going to become the minister, who will become the chief officer. I must be involved. I will not have a public service that I mean, if I hear members saying that they should be defendant, we can't have a public service board that is hostile to the governor. I won't support that, in my opinion. Let's agree and accept the fact that as the county executive, the head of the county, you have a role to play in this. This idea that, oh, you know, this is independent, cannot interfere, it's not the way it works. Let's be practical, Mr. Speaker. And so I would propose, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, that if Senate will not come up with a law, I will sit down with Honorable Wondo, because he's got very good ideas in this area, to come up with a bill that will streamline how the county public service boards work holistically. Who's required there, what qualifications should the members of the board have, and all these things, so that by the time we end up with the amendment, we're also seeing a leaner, because this is what I mean by systems, a leaner public service, county services. We don't have this bureaucracy that has all these people, from the village through the wards, to the constituencies, to the county, so that every county governor says that, you know, 70% of our money goes into personal emoluments and salaries. This is what I think we should be doing to streamline the working of the county government, Mr. Speaker. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I oppose and strongly oppose. Thank you.
Very compelling contribution, the Honorable Ochieng. We shall now have the Honorable Kumontare Jackson, member for Samburu East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to oppose this amendment. And the Speaker, as other speakers have said, that there is nothing this amendment will come and a remedy in the Public Service Board. And Honorable Speaker, what is there, I think the drafters of this amendment, they are confused between the board members and the employees of the county government. Because, Mr. Speaker, in the county government, there is human resource department, and there is human resource officer dealing with the employees. And the qualification of the chair of this board, there is no need, Mr. Speaker, to put that qualification out while they are able to do what the human resource degree can do. Any degree holder, Mr. Speaker, can share that board. There are no people you'll manage there. And Mr. Speaker, if any degree holder given chance to be the chair of that board, nobody who does not know the requirement of any employee, if you are employed to be a teacher, anybody can know that a teacher, we need somebody like this. But to bring this amendment, it's like you are looking for a specific person. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this one we have to reject it so that we cannot put other Kenyans away from this competitive employment in the county. And if you look at the secretary to the board, at least he should have a qualification and he should have some skills. But if it is just like that and the chairman, who can only be there during employment session, then there is no need of the human resource requirement. And if you look at even all other boards, because it is not only the County Public Service Board. There is the board and the employees. So if we mix the two, assuming that the chairman will come and manage the employees of the county, then it is wrong, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I personally oppose this bill. And anybody with the skills can do what this chairperson purport to be doing as a chair of the board. And I think, Mr. Speaker, we don't need to, like what the majority leader said, although that time it was not clear to some of us, but it's very clear that this is a chair of a board, public service board in the county, and the secretary, they need to go back and bring an amendment which can help the county, which will bring a remedy. If there is a problem in the counties, then we should not bring another thing which will bring more problems. And I think experience of the chairman, 10 years is a lot of time. And I think we really need to look at that, because that experience will put very many Kenyans out. So I think, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I oppose.
The Honorable Odor Ombaka, member for Siaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I've been reading this bill, but actually, as many of us have observed, it's a very scanty bill, but still, there's something to say about it. The chairman, who is going to be the chair of the county board, must have qualifications, and this is a degree, which to me is okay and very good, because many boards do have chairmen who are degree holders. So to me it's obvious, and therefore this is acceptable. It is also important to notice that the challenge that I observe is that he has to have 10 years of experience. I'm looking at young people today, they're getting jobs, but only for 3 years, renewable sometimes. How are they going to have 10 years to be able to occupy positions such as this one of 10 years experience, when then themselves are employed only for 3 years? It becomes quite a challenge in that. We need to think about reducing it to perhaps 5 or something, so that we can have young people also occupying some of these positions. I'm very impressed with the fact that the bill also addresses the issue of gender equity and equality, but it must add many more. It should add ethnicity must be there. We are an ethnic society, and many jobs today do not take care of this bit. So if it's not within the law, nobody will follow it. They will just employ people based on gender, but they will not care about regional balance. They will not care about ethnicity or minority. This must be identified and must be indicated within the law or within this bill, so that it becomes a law which will be observed by the governors who will be appointing these boards. So I think some of these are missing out. People living with disability, minority group, regional balancing, and so on, so that nobody feels that they are left out in the appointment. I looked at the secretary, although the secretary is not part of the main issue, but still we need that qualification of a degree holder. It's not indicated. we still need a degree holder as a secretary to this board, because the secretary is the CEO of the board, and he's going to be employing graduates and so on. What about him if it's not indicated in the bill? So I noticed that is missing, and therefore, to me, again, that should be an area of focus. I have not much contribution in this area, but I just want to highlight the fact that it is a good bill in the sense that it is streamlining how the boards are going to function, who is going to be employed. We are aware that governors actually have used a lot of favoritism in their appointment, and they tend to have their own people most of the times. It has been a very disappointing experience for all these years, going to 9 years, almost 10, when our counties still have challenges with employment. Once this is done, then we are sure, or we are cocksure, that the governor will not appoint his own people, some of whom have no qualifications, and the qualification is just simply based on their relationship, family relationship with one another. I think qualifications such as this one, like education, experience of how many years, I think is going to be very, very important. Otherwise, I want to support it, but with reservation. I would like the secretary also to be highlighted here, because he's a CEO, a very, very important person, and one of who needs to be a member of the resource or whatever. Either there is a human resource institution, must be a member of the human resource institution, simply because he is one of those that are employed almost on permanent basis or longer than the chair. The chair is actually somebody who's employed who's going to be a chair for 3 years, so in some cases maybe 5 years, renewable. They can still be employed elsewhere. So they are, in my view, they are temporary. We don't demand too much of experience from them, but we demand education from the chairman. Otherwise, I think this should be a bill that streamlines the county government and be able to be more professional than ever before. Otherwise, I support.
The Honorable Nangapo.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii kuchangia katika mswada huu ule umetoka katika bunge la Seneti. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niseme vile wenzangu wamechangia, kuna baadhi ya vipengee katika mswada huu Mheshimiwa Spika, na haswa lile limekusiwa sana ni kwamba kamati hii katika board ule anatakikana kuwa kwamba ni mwenyekiti, ni lazima akuwe na ishada ya degree. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niunge mkono na nikisema kwamba iwapo mwenyekiti atakuwa na ishada ya degree, ni lazima naibu wake pia Mheshimiwa Spika tuhakikishe kwamba pia ako na shahada ya degree. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni ukweli kwamba katika kaunti zetu, na mwenzangu Mheshimiwa David Ocheng alikuwa ameongea, ni ukweli inaonekana kwamba kulikuwa na baadhi ya magavana wale walipendegezwa kwamba tukuwe na mswada kama huu, ni kwa sababu huenda ikawa walikuwa na malengo ya kuhakikisha kwamba katika huduma katika kaunti zetu sikuwe mzuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, unaweza kuona kwamba katibu katika bodi hilo, Mheshimiwa Spika, kabisa hajaangaziwa na wajasema kama hatakuwa na ishada ya degree ama itakuwa namna gani. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, yeye akikuwa hapo kama ni mwandishi katika bodi hilo, Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima akuwe ni mtu mwenye ako na ishada. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ni ukweli wamesema mwandishi wa board na tena mwandishi katika bunge ule anasimamia masuala katika bunge. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni tofauti sana na huyu mwandishi mwenye ako katika board, kwa sababu mwandishi mwenye ako katika board yeye anapambana na malengo katika bodi hilo. Lakini tukikuja kwa mwandishi ule mwenye ako katika serikali ya kaunti, ni ule anapambana na mikakati ya kaunti, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa Mheshimiwa Spika, unaona kwamba wakikuja kupiga kura katika kamati hiyo, unaona kwamba huyu katibu hawezi kupiga kura, Mheshimiwa Spika. Inaonekana kwamba ana mamlaka, na iwapo anaenda kupewa hiyo mamlaka, Mheshimiwa Spika, anatakikana akuwe ni mtu mwenye ako na shahada ya degree. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kutofautiana na wengine wale wamesema lazima ikuwe ni shahada ya degree kutoka, wenda ikawa yale wamenena wanasema kwamba wale human resource. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niseme yeyote mwenye atakuwa na degree ule anahitimu kufanya kazi hiyo, kwa sababu itakuwa ni kazi ya board, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi naona huyu mtu mwenye ako na shahada kutoka hata kitengo kingine, Mheshimiwa Spika, anaweza kushikilia hii kazi na anaweza kufanya hiyo kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kusema ukweli tumekuwa na changamoto katika kaunti zetu, kwa sababu wale wamechakuliwa kama mawaziri katika bunge hilo, wengine wamechakuliwa kama manaibu wa mawaziri katika bunge hizi zetu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Unaona kwamba wengi hawaelewi kazi yao ni ipi.
Honorable Nangabo, I'll have to interrupt you. We have been caught up with time. You still have the run of about 7 minutes. So when this business is next set down on the order paper, you will have priority, and you can take up your 7 minutes that remains. Honorable members, 27 members have already spoken to this motion on the County Government Amendment Bill number 2018, and definitely when it continues and when the Honorable Nangabo takes up her 7 minutes, those who have deep interest. I see there's still a lot of interest here. I have 18 members who are still interested in speaking to it right now. So I hope when it is again set down for consideration, they will find it fit to come and speak to it. Honorable members, and the time being 6:30 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday in the evening today, 7th July 2021 at 7 p.m.